Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our JavaScript course. JavaScript, a very exciting programming language to learn, and one of the best programming language to learn, especially as a beginner, because HTML and CSS, some people they talk say, these ones no be real programming language, but JavaScript na real programming language, as real as it gets. But even though my real programming language is still very easy to learn. Now, why if you want start your coding journey, even if you won't go into other advanced programming languages, it's always good to start with something like JavaScript. And if now web design or web development you want to enter into, then JavaScript is the best language for you to learn. No website where you see out there today, we know they use JavaScript. Usually we use JavaScript to code our front end and to make them interactive, to bring up alive. So you know go don't be one boring page where say we just the school, they read only text. But JavaScript go make up they responsive, go make up they conditionally responsive so that if it displays some kind styles, only if your users take certain actions. But nowadays, JavaScript don't go far more than just front end. We also they use them on the back end with Node.js. Of course, before you use them, maybe on the front end or on the back end, you guys know waiting it be. You guys know how to write them. Now why? For this course, we go discuss the fundamentals of JavaScript. You go learn how to write if statements. You go learn how to write variables, how to work with different kind of data types, including arrays and objects. You go learn switch statements. You go learn everything where you need to learn to become a solid JavaScript developer. Fun fact, you fit also use JavaScript to make desktop applications. In fact, the most popular code editor today will be VS Code. Now JavaScript they take write am. Now normally, if we dey use JavaScript for our website, front end or back end, we go guys write them for the same folder as our HTML and CSS file. Then we go upload them to our server, and at the server go dey run our code whenever users visit our website. But today, we know they build any website. We just they do interactive lessons. So we go need to run JavaScript by ourselves. But the good news must say you no need to download JavaScript. If you learn programming language like Python now, you go need to install Python on your system. But with JavaScript, you no need to install them because JavaScript they every browser already. So plenty options there will we use for our lessons just to practice and to see the output of our code. We feel use normal VS Code. And if you want, you feel they use VS Code yourself. But the thing with VS Code now say, they always try do things for you. You go try complete the code for you. Sometimes it go even try help you write the entire code, which is not good as a beginner because as a beginner, you need to practice. And for this video, as you watch this tutorial, you need to practice and you always do things yourself. They write the code as I they write them. Even if you don't get computer, even if you don't get code editor, use your phone, write the code on your phone. So we don't go use VS Code for this course. Secondly, we fit use the JavaScript developer tools where they available on Chrome. Most people don't know this, but the Chrome developer tools where they inside your Chrome browser, if you allow you write JavaScript directly and you go fit see the output of your code as well. How you go take access this one and say you go right click and then you go click inspect, or if you just press Ctrl Shift and I, now it will carry you go the developer tools. Now these developer tools, now you go click console and here you could fit the write your code for these arrows. If you write warnings for you above, but no need for you to pay attention to them. If you want start your developer tools on a fresh page, if you just do this about :blank, it will carry you go blank web page. Then you can't inspect, can't start the write for your developer tools. Yeah, if you write JavaScript code, but if you get large block of codes, you know go dey convenient for you to type and you know go dey convenient for you to keep up. Now why we no go use this one as well? If you use one if you like, but waiting me I go to use now waiting with the call code pen. To use I'm just visit this website where you see for the screen. Click pen and it will carry you come here. Now we go see HTML, CSS and JavaScript, but we only dey interested in JavaScript. So just shift these two to the side and then you will fill out your JavaScript code here and see the output in this console below. For instance, if I write this simple code, console.log, you go log my output for here. And na wetin you go use for most of our lessons be this. Now, before we go into the lesson itself, I also want to tell you two more things. First, don't be afraid to go slowly. It no matter how long it take for you to learn this thing, as long as you gradually learn am. In fact, if you go slow and you learn am patiently, you go sabi more. You go sabi more than the person wey person just dey go fast, just dey go fast. You no practice, you no type, you just dey watch video, you no take in time. If something no dey clear to you, take your time to rewatch. Pause the video. There's no need to rush. Second thing wey I wan tell you na say learning programming no dey always dey linear. Wetin I mean by linear? You mean say you no fit expect to just dey get everything at once, understand everything at once. E dey possible, but you no fit expect that kind thing, because a lot of times you go reach one place wey be say everything go just scatter for your head. You go look like magic. Wetin be this? At that point, slow down, rewind, rewatch as many times as possible. Ask your friends, ask Google, ask ChatGPT questions. Say, I dey watch this tutorial, this part I no understand am. If you just clarify am to me, you should do all these things, It's supposed to dey clear to you. And then, even if you know dey clear to you, no fear. At this point, wetin I dey always advise people to do na say, continue. Regardless of the fact that you no fully understand, still continue. Na the best thing about programming be that. Sometimes, as you dey learn more advanced concept, e dey make the smaller concept wey you learn before, e dey make am dey even easier to learn. So you go look say, oh, I no understand this one. How I go take understand this more complicated one? Well, by the time wey you dey learn that more complicated one, you go see how we dey use the basic stuff wey we don learn before, how we dey use am inside more advanced code, and you go come make am very clear say, oh, so now why we dey do wetin we dey do be this. So now, when you don understand these things, we should come move on to our programming lesson, JavaScript full tutorial. Welcome. We go begin with comments. Yes, we dey start simple. We go begin with comment. How to write comment in JavaScript. Why do we write comment in JavaScript? We dey write comments for JavaScript to make sure say we understand wetin our code dey do. So if you come across code, even production code for all these big companies, you go dey see comments. La description, commentary. Wey dey no be the code o. We just dey try describe wetin the code dey do, because sometimes wetin you think say dey obvious no go dey obvious. Sometimes you go leave your code for years, you go come back, everything go all scatter for your head. And then sometimes, most times, like 99% of the time, no be only you go dey work on code. Una go dey work on the same code block together. So other people wey no be you need to understand which you dey try achieve with certain parts of your code. Now, why would they use comments? Now, we get two different kind of comments for JavaScript. We get inline comments and we get multi-line comments. Inline comment now just comment with the day on one line. This now the way we say we dey write inline comment. You will write slash. So anything we dey in front of this slash, the browser or anything where they use run your code could load say this thing not the actual code o, na just comments. If you write your comment in front of the code, if you write your inline comment in front of the code. So let's say we get this example code. No concern yourself with wetin this code mean for now. Just example code. Now we go come write slash in front to write comment to describe wetin this code they do. But since the inline comment with this, now only one line our comments dey. If we go to another line, anything will be write from here on now code. If you want write another comment, people guys add another slash. But if you get long comment, you say you know if you stay on just one line. Now where would you use multi-line comments be that? Now how would you write and be this? /* then */. So anything with the in between this / and star, and then this star and /. Everything with the in between the two asterisks, my comments. And if you put them anywhere, if you put them on the 100th line, and then anything with the in between them could be comments. And then after this last asterisk and /, You mean say you don't end your comment with that. So anything after it could become code again. Now we could enter JavaScript proper. We could begin with the most basic building block of code. We could begin with variables. We dey continue with our JavaScript tutorial. Today, we dey enter the first main topic, which is variables and data types in JavaScript. The most basic building block of any code we will see, no matter how complicated, no matter how many lines that code be, no matter how many pages, no matter how many files, the most basic na variables and data type. Now, may we begin with variables. Variables na how we take dey store data at the basic level. Na like boxes we will take dey store data so that we go fit easily access that data. One of the examples wey I dey always use to make people understand the basic nature of variables na say, na like storing phone number for your phone. If you get number, no matter how long that number be, you fit store am with just one name so that the next time when you wan use that number, you no go need to dey press out all of the numbers or memorize the numbers. You will just know the name wey you take store am. And if you use that name, you dey automatically use the number wey you store. Be that na how variables dey work. Variables dey so important because with this simple logic of storing data inside variables, you fit use am build complex programs. Just think of am like Legos, or say you dey build house. No matter how small the bricks wey you dey use be, if you put all of them together, you fit build something big and magnificent. Na like so we dey use variables build programs for programming languages like JavaScript. So how we take dey write variables for JavaScript? E dey simple. We go say let var or const. These na wetin we dey call our keywords. So you go use a keyword to show say I wan create variable. So you go choose between these three keywords wey dey acceptable for JavaScript, which is var, let, and const. Because the let na the most popular, we go use let to start. But I go tell you later the differences between these three and when you need to use them. So now we go say let, then we go choose the name when you want take store your variable. Then you go say equal to, and then you go write the data wey you want save. Now I go use actual example, still using the phone number example. So now let's say you want save the phone number of your sweetheart. You go choose a keyword let, then you go write the name wey you want take store that data. The data na the phone number of your sweetheart. Let's use the name we want to store am as sweetheart. So you go say let sweetheart equal to, then you go write the number where you want store. Simple. Now you don't assign this number as the variable name sweetheart. So anytime when you want use this number for your code, you no need to start the type the number. You could just use this variable name where you don't use store am sweetheart. So now if you check wetin dey inside the sweetheart, you go see say e go return the number. And like that would take the use variable. And if you use any number, if you use 1, if you use 1 billion, no matter how long the number be, once you don't save them inside one easy word wey if you understand as your variable name, you go feed the type that variable name and they use the data where you store anywhere for your program. Variables, they're so versatile. If you use them, save so many kinds of data, not just numbers, which bring us to the next topic, which is the foundational area of learning to code where they tell you about, and now data types. Data types just means you they understand the type of data where you feel use for your JavaScript code, the type of data where you feel save, for example, as variables. Plenty possible data now we get for programming, but the most fundamental ones for JavaScript na numbers, strings, boolean, null, undefined, and symbol. We go to use all these data types and we go to store them as variables as examples so that you will fit see them. Now, we already examined the number data type. Number data type na any number like phone number of your sweetheart will receive, or the number of times we don't go out, or the number of pi in a circle. any number. It should be 1, 2, 3, it should be 50, it should be 5 million, it should be 234,000. Any number, the number variable be that. In programming, we dey always distinguish between two kinds of numbers. We dey call them integers and floats. Integers na whole number and floats na decimal number. So any number like 10, 100, 50, 500, 5,000, 1 million, we will get points. Any number like that na integer. But if you don't reach points, like say 2.314, 3.149, 5.5, 500.10, 4.499, any number we get points like that now floating point numbers or floats. For most programming languages, that they distinguish between integers and floats as different data types, but it no be like that for JavaScript. JavaScript, both floats and integers now under the same data type, which is numbers. Now, another data type we get na string. If you think of strings as words, but we no get any data type we dey call words. No, we dey call them strings because any word wey you wan use for your program, no matter it's not just one word or phrase or sentence, anytime wey you dey use words and you wan use that words as it is, as data, you go need to put that in quotation marks. So once you add the quotation marks, you don't become strings be that. So basically, any foundational data wey you see with the in quotation marks like this, my string. So let's say I want save my best food as a variable. So I go follow the same approach when we use save our variable name before. I go choose a keyword, let. Then I go come choose the name where I want to use store my favorite food. I go call am delicacy. So I go say let delicacy equal to now the data where I want store, the string where I want store. I go gas the term inside quotation mark. So I go choose bread and I go put this bread inside quotation marks. And I bet you say strings don't necessarily need to be single word. So if you also say let delicacy equal to open quotation marks, bread and egg and tea and plantain and apple and oranges and juice and vegetables and stew and chicken, close quotation mark. So everything wey dey in between these quotation marks na the string, na the data wey I want store be that. Now, one thing wey you no want to when you dey save your string data, you no want forget a quotation marks. Never ever forget the quotation marks because it will break your code. Because the computer no go know say this thing na string. You go think say na maybe variables or keywords or any other thing wey we dey use for our programming, but e no go know say na string. Now, I get one question for you. If I set my number variable as object, which kind data type it is? Say na string or integer? Well, you dey correct. If I set my number variable as 100, then na integer. Now, what if I store my number variable with quotation marks? Na still the same 100, but now I don't add quotation mark. See na string it is or na integer? Na string. Yes, na string because you don't put quotation marks. So you dey treat them as basically now like word. You know, they treat them as number a thing. Because JavaScript, they do which we they call type conversion. So let's say you use one method to join two variables together, and one of them the number, and then the other one a number with quotation marks. You go turn them both to string. We could talk about this one later, but just know say if you get number in quotation marks, you don't turn string with that. So if you want to store your number as number, no put quotation marks. But for strings, always put quotation mark. Another data type we get na boolean. Boolean are simply true or false. Booleans they useful for programming because we dey use them for so many scenarios like conditionals. A lot of times you will want to check if something they true or false before you move on to the next part of your program. So they use variables will be set as true or false to check these conditionals. For JavaScript, you go write your true and false as lowercase, all of them lowercase, but no quotation marks. No put quotation marks for your Boolean data type, which is true or false. No put them, and make sure say you write them in small letter. For Python, we dey start our Boolean with capital letter, but this one no be Python, na JavaScript with this. So na small letter and no quotation marks. Now, maybe we do quick test again. If I write my Boolean variable, which is true or false, if I write as small letter and no quotation mark, which data type it is? They correct if you say na Boolean. Now, if I write out with quotation marks, which data type it is? Na strength. So because here you get quotation mark, you no longer be boolean, you don't turn strength. Or as long as you comot the quotation marks, you don't turn boolean data type. Again, two other data types wey we get na null and undefined. Both of these data types mean say nothing really dey inside our code, but na two different kind of nothing, if you understand me. No worry, ma explain. The first kind of nothing wey we get na undefined. Undefined mean say this variable wey I set as undefined, nothing dey there. For now, I never define wetin dey there, but something could still dey there in the future o. Something most likely go dey there. I never know wetin go dey there, but I don dey tell you say this variable exists and I never define am for now. And wetin undefined mean be that. But null means say I don't declare this variable as nothing. No be say I never know wetin I go put there. I know wetin I go put there and na nothing I wan put there. You fit dey wonder, if na nothing you wan put there, then why you con dey declare the variable in the first place? Because even nothing get in use for JavaScript, and later we go dey use am when we start to dey write small code. Finally, we get symbol. Symbol na another one of the foundational or primitive data type wey we get for JavaScript, even though they just introduce am recently. Symbol are just for some kind data wey be say na unique identifier. And one thing with symbol na say once you create am, you no fit change am. The main purpose of the symbol data type na to act as unique identifier, something wey be say we take dey identify other data for inside wetin we dey call objects. But since you never even learn wetin objects be for JavaScript, no need to go too much into this symbol data type for now. All the most important one wey you need to know: numbers, strings, boolean, null, and undefined. You don't know them already. So now we fit move on to the next part of the lesson, which is to tell you the difference between declaring and assigning a variable. Yes, difference dey between declaring and assigning a variable. If you declare the variable without assigning it, for instance, if I say let sweethearts or var sweethearts or cost sweethearts, I dey declare this variable. I be tell the computer say one variable dey wey be sweetheart, but I never assign this variable to anything. I just dey let you know. I just dey declare am by declaring variables be that. Now, later, if you can say sweethearts equal to strength, my love, we dey talk say this sweetheart variable wey we don declare before, now we dey set am, we dey assign now to my love. But the difference between declaration and assigning be this: for up here, we declare without assigning, and for here, we assign because we don't declare already. Of course, you fit declare and assign variable at the same time, like we don dey do before. You see, we go say let sweetheart equal to something something. But if you never know wetin your variable go be, or if you just want declare am first, you fit declare am without assigning at the same time. You fit also assign a new variable to a variable wey don exist before. So let's say we get one variable a equal to the number 200, and then we declare another variable b. We fit make the value of b also 200 by simply saying b equal to a. Basically, wetin we dey achieve for here na say we dey talk say make the value of b the same as the value of a, because once we don assign this a to 200, basically this a don become 200. Now 200 in disguise. So when we dey say b equal to a, we dey say simply b equal to 200 as well. Very easy, very straightforward. Now, make I quickly talk about console.log, wey we don dey use since. If you wonder wetin be this console.log, console.log just mean say log the value of this code to our console. For JavaScript, if you want see the output of your code, but again, I tell you, if you no run am for browser, you no go necessarily see the value. So now this console.log, we take dey show the output to ourselves for inside our console before we push am to production. For Python, to do the same thing, we dey use print, but for JavaScript, we dey use console.log. One thing we dey use this console.log do most of the time now to check the value of our variable at various points. So now, if I declare a variable for here, without assigning the variable. I just declare am. Then I console log this variable. Then later, I up assign now to a value. Then I console log this variable at this point. You go see say the result, the output for our console go dey different. When we never assign am, when we just declare am, the value go be null. But once we don assign am, the value go become wetin we assign am to. Na one of the uses of console log be that. Another thing wey I wan call your attention to before we proceed na this semicolon wey we don dey add since. You fit dey wonder wetin be this semicolon wey dem dey add for the end of these variables. This semicolon na wetin be standard for JavaScript to add at the end of the lines of your code. Not be necessarily at the end of everything, but at the end of parts of the code wey say they dey complete in themselves. Like this variable assigning now, e dey complete. Say, okay, we don finish wetin we dey do for this part, so we add semicolon. Then here we assign am, we don finish wetin we dey do for here, we add semicolon. We dey use am to sort of separate our code to be able to read am more clearly, so everything no go just jaga jaga. But this one no really dey compulsory. If you no add am, your code go still work. But developers dey do am as standard because e dey compulsory before. Now e no dey compulsory again. But still, developers still dey add am because e dey make the code easier to read. If you no wan use am, if you no use am, but if you wan use am, you go use am. Now, before we proceed, I want make we do some exercises. First, I want initialize some variables. I go use var to initialize my variable instead of let. I tell you, you fit use anyone between var, let, and const. I will still tell you the difference later. Now, I will set my var a, that's variable a, to be equal to 10, var b to be equal to 20, and var c to be equal to string instead of number. We could make them equal to the string of I am. Now, for our exercises, we could change the value of these variables. So first, I go do a equal to a plus 1. Now, what's the solution of this one? It could be 10 plus 1. Our 8 before, we set them to 10. So now we just they add 1. So the answer will be 11. Now, we go change b to be b plus 5. What will be the solution? B na 20. So 20 plus 5 could be 25. Now, just as we they add numbers, we fit also add strings for JavaScript. So before we get our C variable to be the string I am, now we they make C to be the previous C, which is I am, plus a new string, which is a boy. So what will be our final result? Our final result will be I am a boy. Now, when you don't understand how to set variables and how to change your variables, well, you set them by adding and joining strings. We go move on to cases for variables. They're very important to know. Say JavaScript variables, then they case sensitive. So you know if you just use any case variation of your variable, thing say you go work. What do I mean by case variation? It means say, for instance, if I use one variable and I call them my number variable and I write them like this, and then I won't use this variable later for my program, I can write them in all capital letters, or I mix capital and small letter like this. If I start to use this variable, it not go whoa, because this variable and this variable will be the same for the computer, for JavaScript. You know they recognize that as the same because every single change in your case, it is very important and it would change your variables completely. The convention, the standard we will get for JavaScript must say, if we dey name one single word, we dey name our variable as one single word, and we go use lowercase for everything. For instance, when we use our sweetheart variable, we use lowercase for everything because not just one word. If you want set maybe the color of one thing, and you use them as variable color, color na still one word, so everything will be lowercase. Or if you want set one of our variable fruits to be fruits where we like, we go still use lowercase because na just one word. However, if the name we want use, if our variable name na more than one word, then we go use wetin that they call camel case. For instance, if I want set my variable name to be my sweetheart, I no go write am like this, say all small letters, because it would they add to read. So we go use my sweetheart with camel case. Wetin be camel case? Camel case means say we go write the first word. The first word could be small letter, and then the beginning of the next word could be capital letter. So if we get my sweetheart, we go write them like this: my all in lowercase. Then the beginning of sweetheart, the S go be in uppercase. Same if we get variable will be my color. The first word might go be small letter and the second word will be color. If it be 3 words, then the first word will be lowercase. Then the start of the next words will be capital letter. So if you say maybe we want to write my favorite food variable, my go be small letter, favorite could be capital letter, and food will also start with capital letter. These examples now other examples of proper camel case. For our proper camel case variable now, you say proper the first word now all lowercase. Then camel begin with capital letter, case begin with capital letter. Same with our use lowercase for single words variable. Use my all in small letter. Then the next words begin with capital letter. Every one of them. One thing you don't want to do for variables for JavaScript must say you don't want to use space. Never ever use space between your words. No. For instance, if you want to write my sweetheart variable, you know if you put space at all, you don't know make any sense for programming. You guys be joined together, but with camel case. Still continuing with our lessons on variable. Now I tell you say to create variable for JavaScript with the use var, let, and const. Then the name of our variable then equal to the data everyone store inside the variable name. Now I want to tell you the major difference between var and let and const. The main difference is now whether we want change the data will restore later on for our program. That the first difference, and the second difference is scope. So const na the easiest to know. Const that how you go set a variable so you know go change at all for your program. Now you feel a thing say if we know the changer, then no be variable. Yes, technically no be variable, not constant because you know they vary. But still, we still technically they call them variables because we they assign now. So for our constants, anything we see, you know they change at all. Or you may even want to make the mistake of changing them by mistake. Just use const. Once you use const, the computer no will allow you change out. For instance, if I write this code now with const and I do my console log, and then I won't change them again later because this is my error it go bring because you know fi change them. Within this variable referred to no fi ever change for our program. Now with let and var, you fit change them later. For example, if I write this variable as var, I fit still reassign them later for my program. Same with let. If I write a variable and let, I fit still change them later. So what's going to be the difference? The difference now, first, if you want to change something with var, you fit still use var. For instance, if I set this variable using var and then I want to change them, I fit still use the var keyword before I change them. But if I set them with let, if I want to change them later, I move or use any keyword before the variable. I go just assign the variable. Like I tell you before, declaration and assignment. But with var, even when you declare, even when you reassign, you fit still use the var keyword. Why this difference? Then let's say doing it like this no good at all. Say if you don't set one variable with var, yet you won't set them, you can't set them with var again. You no good at all because now the best way to make errors for your program be that. Because sometimes you go don't set one variable as one value, and then another person will they work on your code. If you don't know, then you go won't set the same variable. You go can't change the value, or the program will come break. But if you use legs, and now why most JavaScript code where you will see my legs must be the use because if you use legs. Once you don't use let to declare and assign your variable, if one person don't know, he won't can't declare again, can't use let, you know go walk. As you they see for here, it go the true error say nope. Person don't use let to declare variable before. But now if you want to reassign them on purpose, you know go use let again. Because that one they show the computer so okay, this casino say the dog already declared this thing before. No be by mistake, then be declare them again to change the value. Another difference where I tell you na scope, but to understand wetin be scope for JavaScript and for programming in general, you go need to understand functions. So I will explain more about this when we do our lesson on functions. But for now, you don't make good progress already for your JavaScript journey. You don't understand data types, different kind of variables, different type of operation will you carry with your variables. You don't understand var, let, and const. Now, we could move on to the next part of our program. So many things they will be say human beings fit do better than computer. But when it comes to mathematics, computer better pass human beings. Now why most programming languages they ensure say you fit do mathematical operations, and JavaScript too get several complex mathematics wey you fit do. But to start, we go examine the basic ways to do mathematics with JavaScript. We go begin with addition. If you wan do addition for JavaScript, e dey very simple. You fit just do am like the way wey we dey write normal mathematics. For instance, if you wan do 10 plus 10, you go just simply write 10 plus 10. And if you return this exercise, e go give you the correct value. Usually, we wan store this value wey go return. We wan store am inside a variable. So we go say, let sum equal to 10 plus 10. So we dey save the sum of this operation inside this variable sum. If we console log our sum variable, we go see say e go become 20, which is the sum of 10 plus 10. And we fit do the same thing for subtraction. If we say 80 minus 20 and we store the result inside a variable, our solution go be correct 60. If we do long numbers like 100,000 or 100 million minus 586,432, our computer go still fit do am very fast with JavaScript. Na light work. And to multiply for JavaScript, we go follow the same approach, but we go use asterisks. And to divide, we go use forward slash. Now, for JavaScript, if we want increase our value by 1, if we want add just 1 to the number, we get shortcuts we will take the do am instead of to the add plus 1 plus 1. For instance, if we get our number variable and we set this variable to 90 and we just want add 1 to this 90, we fit write am like this, say our number variable plus 1, and it will return the value of our previous variable plus 1, which is 91. But if you wan write am faster and more efficiently for JavaScript, you get where we dey do am. We go just say my number plus plus. Now we no need to say equal to again. We go just say the name of our variable plus plus, and at that point it go add 1 to your variable. The reason why we get this shortcut na because if we dey always do a lot of operations for JavaScript wey be say na just one increment, na why we get this shortcut. So instead of dey write your variable equal to your variable plus 1, you no go need to write any equal to or any my variable plus 1. You go just write the name of your variable plus plus. And just as we fit add 1 to increment, we also fit subtract 1 to decrease or decrement. For this one now, we could say minus minus. So we just dey say subtract 1 from this variable. And if you do them as many times as possible, if you write your variable plus plus, for the next line do plus plus, for the next line do plus plus, I'm saying they add 1, they add 1, they add 1, they go. And the same for minus. Now, another operation where we get for JavaScript now remainders. Remainders to find wetin remain if you divide one number by another. You know say some numbers they divisible without remainders, like 10 over 2, it will give us 5, and 10 over 5, it will give us 2. Very easy division. But if you get something like 11 over 5, it will be 2 remainder 1. If we want to know wetin they remain after we divide one number by another, now this operation we go use. You go write percentage. So we go say 11 percentage of 5. We know they say divide am, we they say find the remainder. So it go do 11 over 5, which is 2 remainder 1. That 2, you know, go tell us, you know, go write that. We no care about that 2. We only care about wetin remain 1. So we go store this one inside variable to user. We dey usually use this one to sometimes find out if number na even number or odd number. Because any number where you divide by 2 and it give you 0, that means say the number they divisible and na even number with that. But if you divide them by 2 and it gives you odd number 1, that means say the number na odd number with that. Now, one of the reasons why we dey use this percentage to find out the remainder, Peter. Another one where we guys talk about na plus equal. If we get variable already where they equal to something like say 50 and we want add another number to this, if you write that, I'm like say we get our variable a and then say a equal to a plus 10. That means say we dey add 10 to the original value where they inside this our variable a, which was 50. So the solution could be 60. But instead of today we like and like this, they write and like this every time. We get shortcut where we go use. We go just say a plus equal 10, which is the same thing as saying a equal to the previous value of a plus 10. Same for these our other examples. This na the previous value, and we dey change them by writing the long form, which is to say, okay, our new variable equal to our old variable plus the number we want to add. But instead of writing the long form, we go just say our old variable plus equal to the number we want to add. So if we have our variable b to be originally 100 and we won't make them 120 by adding 20, if you write out in the long form like this, or if you just say b plus equals 20, which means automatically take our original b and add 20 and then save them as b again. So just change the value of our b by adding the old b plus this new value where we want to add will be 20. And if you do this exact thing for minus equals, so let's say we get our original variable as 50 and we want to subtract 10. Instead of to write the long form like this, we could just write a minus equals 10, which is the same thing as saying 50 minus 10 to be our new a. And if we do the same thing for multiplication, and if we do the same thing for divisions as well. For multiplication, it just means multiply our previous a value by 5 and then save the number as a. So change the value of our a to be the previous value multiplied by 5. And the same thing for division. Change the value of our b. So our previous value divided by 2. Now, moving on from number operations to string operations for JavaScript, how to work with strings for JavaScript. I tell you, to write your strings, you guys put that in double quotation. But with him, I not tell you, and I say we fit also use single quotation marks instead of double quotes. Now, waiting go decide when to use single or double. Well, usually you won't use single if you dey use actual literal quotation marks inside your strings. That is, if you want quote something inside your string, and you not just dey use the quote as a way of writing strings, though, you dey use the quotes as quotes. Say it is literally part of the string where I won't write. So for example, if I won't write this string, the ball isn't blue, it's red, and I won't put this blue inside quotation marks. If I begin my string with double quotes, you go end them for year because here we'll use another double quote. And even though we dey use them literally, you dey assume say we dey use them as part of our string ending. But if I start am with single quotes, you go not say, okay, my string ending where I dey expect na also single quotes. So if you encounter double quotes, you go treat them as literal double quotes where we won't use them for. You know, for treat them as say at the end. So if I also log the output now, it will show me the correct thing where I want with my quotation marks for my blue. But if I do one as double, you go return error. Now, if I won't use literal quotes for my string and I still will use double quotation marks, you get where if you do that one as well. One of the ways if you do them, I say we go use escape character. We dey call them escape character for JavaScript. This escape character na backslash. So make we do one example where we go use double quotes, and anywhere where we get literal quotes inside our strings, we must write backslash first like this. So now this backslash go serve as a way to escape the program from thinking that this is the angle quote instead of a literal quote. Since they don't put this backslash before this quotation mark, that means say now literal quotation mark with this, they use them literally, they won't put them inside their strings. Hope you say that they try to say now the end of a string with this. No, they use them literally because they don't put this backslash as a sign to your program to tell your program say this is a literal quote. And you can't put them for everywhere. So you go put them for the first beginning of your quotation marks, not of the string of the actual word where you want put in quotes. And you will put them for the second one for that word too. And then for the end, you will use your quotes as normal to say now the end of the string be this. Now, you feel the wonder, which is the best way to use double quotes inside my strings? May I just use single quotes to start and end my string for? May they use escape characters? Well, na single quote be the best because it is easier to use, it is easier to read, and it will make your code dey very neat. But something they will even better pass both single quotes and double quotes to write strings for JavaScript. Now, wetin we dey call backticks. Why backticks? Better na say, even with our single quote, you still won't use another single quote inside your string, and you go encounter the same problem as before with the double quote, because it go treat your first single quote as the end. So to escape one of these ones, in general, without using any backslash, you could just use the backtick symbol for your string, which means wetin dey inside na string though, but I still fit use other quotation marks inside, and no go treat am as say no be my own quotation marks. Now, we get several other characters wey you fit use escape characters for JavaScript, so that your JavaScript code no go treat them like say na keyword or symbol. You want make it treat them like literal thing wey you dey use them for. One of them na this backslash itself. If you want to use backslash inside your quote and you won't use them normally, you go first use backslash as an escape character first, then use your actual backslash. So the first backslash, they tell them say, dey use whatever comes next, literally, normally. So what comes next now? The backslash. So you go use your backslash normally. If you use just one backslash, you go think say you dey escape something and your code no go work correctly. So to use actual backslash, you go first use one backslash, then the actual backslash. Other ones dey like this new line character. If you want make your string start on a new line, space. If you just add space or you press enter, it no go work. You go just use backslash n, which is new line, and we dey use backslash t for tab and backslash b for backspace. No need to memorize all of these things. You should be persuaded saying they find them easy to memorize stuff. There's no problem. But if you the 5 things hard to memorize, no need to worry about cramming all these things. No, if you dey rank your programs with the practice well, e go dey part of you. Now when you dey use them, they develop actual projects, they learn, they watch tutorials, obviously people they use them, it go become natural to you, instead of they say, oh, before I move on, I got cram this thing, I got cram this thing. No, continue with your lesson, just understand what you will try achieve with these things. No need to cram anything. Now we dey move on to joining strings. If you want join 2 strings together, I don't tell you before, we fit use plus this sum symbol to add strings, just like we use them to add numbers. If we use them to join 2 strings together, now what we they call concatenation. So let's start. Let's say we get one string and then another string. We fit add both strings together with plus and save them inside a 3rd string. And we fit do them directly by saying our variable joint string equal to our first string plus our 2nd string, and the final output could be the first string and the 2nd string joined together as one string. We fit also use the plus equals operation for strings like we use them for numbers. So for instance, if we get this variable as string and we want add another string, instead of saying add this plus this like the long one, we go simply write the short form as say plus equals the new string. So this is literally the same thing. They say old string plus the new string, save them as the variable we will take save the old string. So the old string plus the new string will be equal to our updated string. Of course, if we also add 2 string variables together, if both of them are strings, so we go save the new string when we want to add also as a variable, and then we will use the variable to add to another variable. So instead of saying plus equals this string itself, we go say plus equals this variable, which we don't already set to be equal to string. So basically, we just add this variable and this variable together to form a string containing the entire string of both of them joined together. It gets way we will take the length of our string for JavaScript. By length, I mean say how long our string be, how many characters they inside. For this, we dey use string method called .length. So all we need to do now to type the name of our string .length. So let's say we save our string variable as this variable and we want check the length. We could just say, okay, the names we will take store our string .length. You fit also use the entire string without saving it as a variable. No matter how long your string be, if you write the entire string and then put .length inside, and it will give you the right value, but this one they too long and you know clean. So you go save them inside variable and then you go type the name of your variable .length. Of course, you fit also save am inside another variable, but the van wey go save inside your variable, remember, no be the strength go save o, na the number, the length of the string na im go save inside your new variable. This length method no be the only method wey we get for strings, and no be the only method wey we get for JavaScript. Now I will tell you wetin be methods for JavaScript. Methods na function wey we take dey use on specific type of data to find out things about that data or to do things to that data. Methods dey specific because usually you fit use them only for their data type. So for instance, this method wey we take check strings, you know me say we fit use them for other data types like boolean or other types of data. We dey call methods from specific type of data. Once you reach the end of your JavaScript lesson, you sef go know how to create your own data types for yourself and create methods wey be say you fit only use for that data type. But for now, just know say some methods dey wey we fit use on strings to do things to them or find out things about them, and one of them na this length method. Other method wey we get na to uppercase method. We fit use this one to convert our strings to uppercase. So we get our string and we save it inside this variable. Then we go all write the name of our variable, then dot to uppercase with these open and close brackets, and it will change everything to uppercase. And we fit also use to lowercase. We also get the trim method. The trim method, we fit use trim white spaces for our string. White spaces na all this place. If you dey collect data from your users, for example, if they collect their names or address or any other string data, some go accidentally put space by mistake, and you as a developer, you gats correct that error. So instead of saying my users, make sure say you no put space. So no, you go make them type their name and their address and any other string data wey you wan collect. But before you save that data to your database, you go make sure say you use this trim method to clean any space wey fit dey. If no space dey, you go use them as normal. So now one of the things wey we dey do as smart programmers be that. Again, I will advise you, no need to focus on cramming or memorizing these methods. Once you dey use them, you dey practice, you go develop enough expertise to remember them naturally. You fit continue to dey study string methods on your own, just to find out the ones wey we get. If you research them, or if you ask ChatGPT. But once you understand wetin dem be and wetin we dey use them for, no need to start to dey cram say, oh, if I never cram all the string methods with the JavaScript for my life, I no go move on. No, that even be top programmer sef no sabi every single method. They just must say this method dey wey we take dey do these things, and when I need them, I fit easily Google am or ask person wey sabi am. Now, one of the other things we fit do with strings for JavaScript might say we fit access specific characters from that string. That is, we fit access alphabet with a part of the string or any characters we want inside that string. Now, how we go do am be this? We go first write the name of our variable we will take save our string. Then we go open this square brackets and close them. Then inside we go write the number we will call the notation we correspond to the character we will need. Now, if we get our string variable of Michael, we fit access any of these alphabets using this bracket notation. Let's say we want access the first character will be M. We fit do am by saying the name of our string, square bracket, and we go put the position of the character. So for this M now, we don't say na him be the first character in this string. So we go put 1. Now, maybe console log wetin go show. You see said na I show instead of M. Why? But my M be our first character. Why N no show? Because JavaScript and virtually all programming languages, they start their notation from 0. So the first character no be 1. Na 0. So if we use 0 instead of 1, we go see say it will give us our M's. And if we use 1, it will give us I. Now like so it will be. Now if you want access the last, you go count them. Michael, Michael. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last one are 6. So we go use the notation as 6. And you see say Michael, that word, that string, my 7 characters they there. The last one could be 6 because we start from 0. Alternatively, if you won't accept the last characters, instead of counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like we do before, we fit just use this smart way of programming. We will say the name of our string dot length minus 1, because the name of our string dot length will give us how many characters there is like we learned before. So if we use our first name variable now as Michael and we say first name dot length, it go return 7 because 7 characters na in dey there. But since we dey start from 0 for our notation, we go make sure that we subtract them by 1 to give us the actual value where we want for the last character of our string. We dey usually use this one if we don't know how long our string be. So if you don't know how long your string be, or you don't even know wetin the string be, you just dey collect them from your users, or you get plenty strings wey you want iterate over. Instead of today do am manually, say count how many characters dey here, count how many characters dey here, you go just use this smart way to code. Say the name of the string dot length minus 1. No matter how long the string be, if you use this code, you go always return the last character. And if you won't do the second to the last, instead of doing minus 1, you go do minus 2. And if you want to do the third to the last, you will use minus 3, and so on and so on. Variables for JavaScript, they good at saving one data of one data type. If you get any data where you want store, maybe number, strings, or Boolean value, if you use variables and they could work very well. But what if you have more than one data to store? If you think of variables as a box to store one data, then you fit think of arrays as box to store more than one data at the same time. For instance, if we get all of these variables, instead of storing them inside their own different variables like this, we fit store everything inside one single variable by using an array. And ladies and gentlemen, now like this with the right arrays for JavaScript. Today, we're going to discuss everything about arrays, including how we write them, what we fit use them, store, and how we fit access the data we store inside them, how we fit change this data, and some methods we will use on our arrays. Now, if you want write any array for JavaScript, you go write down, like see, you declare normal variable. You go use your keyword, then your variable name. Now, after equal to, you must make sure say you open square bracket and close the square bracket. Inside the square bracket, now where you will write all the data where you want to store, and you go make sure say you separate them with comma. This comma separation be very important because if you get consecutive data like this, you see you not separate them with comma, the completer, the program go assume say now just one data be the both of them. So you must separate them with comma. Obviously, as we don't see for our example, you fit use any kind of data types inside the same array. For JavaScript, if you get one singular array, if it contain numbers, strings, Boolean, undefined, and more at the same time. One thing where you also need to know about array now say, if we get array inside array. So if we get this array, and then we want to store another array, another data will be array. We fit store that data as array inside the same array. Now, what thing they call nesting array be that. So once you store your data inside this array, how you fit access one data? Let's say you want to use just one data out of all of the data we will save inside our array. How we fit take do am? Well, you go start using bracket notation. We don't already talk about how to use bracket notation to access characters will be our strengths. Well, now the same exact way with the access data where they inside our array. So just like with the strings, you will write the name of your variable and then you will use your notation. Remember, our notation, they always start with 0. So if we want to access the first data for our array, we go write the name of the variable. And then after the open and close square bracket, we go write the position, the notation of our data where we try access. For the first one, we go use 0. For the second one, we go use 1. The third one, we go use 2, and so on and so forth. And of course, you fit also save the data where you don't access from your array. You fit also save them inside another variable. You fit save them into a old variable. Another thing where if you do with index notation, now to change the value of one data inside your array at the specific position of that data where you want change. So first, you go access the data using our notation, our bracket notation. And then once you access the data with the notation, you go come set them equal to wetin you want change them to. So after you write them like this, you go check the value of this data in this first position we want change. You go change them to this data we want change them to. And our entire array go change from this to become this. And you fit do them like this for every single one of the data wey dey inside your array by just accessing am and then equating am to the new data wey you want change am to. For our strings, remember, for our strings, we no fit do am like this because you no fit change one singular character inside your string. But for array, you fit do am like that. So you no need to change everything every time wey you want change just one thing. You go just call on that one wey you want change by accessing am and then make am equal to the thing wey you want change am to. Okay, now, so what if we get array inside our array? How we take the access that one? For instance, if this our array get two different arrays inside out, how we go take access them? Well, first, you go cheat done, like say, na just normal data. You go treat the array like say na just normal data. So if we want access any data for inside this first array, you go use the bracket notation as normal. Our first array dey position 1. So we go access them like say we dey access regular data for position 1. But then after we access that one with our first bracket notation, we go open another bracket and then we go all enter that array, all count the position of the exact data we want access inside that array and then write the bracket notation of that one too. So let's say we want access the first data inside this our array. We don't already thought hey, it dey position 1. Then if first inside that position 1, they position 0. So we go use 1, 0. If we want access the second one, we go use 1, 1. And then for our second array, this 1, 2, we go do them like normal. This one, they position 0, 1, 2, 3. So we go write our first bracket notation to be position 3. And then if we dey try access the first data inside that one, it will be position 3, 0. And the second one will be position 3, 1. And so on and so on. Now, remember, say we talk about methods for our string lesson. Say we fit check the entire length of our string by using the .length method, and we fit change our string from lowercase to uppercase by using the .uppercase method, and we fit change them to lowercase by using the .lowercase method. Well, as strings get their own methods, now arrays too get their own methods. One of the most popular methods we get for our arrays now the .push method. This .push method, we did use add another data to our array, but we did take add them to the end of our array. So the end results go still be one singular array, but it will just make our array day longer with more new data at the end will be added using this .push. You see, say we write the name of our old array, where be the array we want push something to, and then we write .push, and then inside the bracket we put our new data where we want add, so that the final product could be the combination of the old data inside our array and the new data at the end. You will still follow the normal convention of writing your data. With I name might say if you want add number, you see say inside our bracket we just add the number. But if you want add string, don't forget to put your quotes, double quotes or single quotes. And if you want add boolean true or false, you will be all lowercase true, or if not false, you want add false. You fit also save the new data where you want add inside one variable first. So then when you want write the .push, you could just write the name of your variable instead of the data where you want add, because automatically the data don't become the variable and the variable don't become the data. And we fit do the same way to add an array inside our old array. We go write the name of the array we want add something to, then .push, Then inside this dot push bracket, we go write the new array where we want add. You go see say our results will be the new array inside our old array added to the back of the existing data we already did our old array. We fit also save the new array for variable first, and then inside the dot push, we go write the name of the array where we want push to our old array. If we will add the data in a new array to the old array, but we don't want to make it be array inside of an array, we will add all of the data inside the array as their own positions inside an old array regularly. Then we go down with what they call spreading. Spreading is very simple. It just means that you will add this dot dot dot, what they call ellipses, in front of the array inside the dot push brackets. So this dot dot dot, they talk say no add this array as the whole, add the individual data at the end. Another array method really gets where they easy to understand na dot pop. This dot part method, they're very simple because the only thing way they do now say is they remove the last item for your array. Remember, when they use dot push add item to the last position, if you won't come remove item with they at the end, you could just use dot pop. Simple. So let's say we get this array containing 4 data inside. Once we write dot pop, that means say we they remove the last data, and from now on our array only get 3 data inside. You fit also save the data where you just remove with this dot up method. You fit also save them inside its own variable. What you go do now, say you go use your normal keyword to create a new variable, and then you will say equal to your old array, your array will they modify dot pop. So this one will remove the last data and then save it to the new variable. You fit also do the same thing in the opposite direction. If you want to do the same thing in the opposite direction, you go use dot shift. What I mean by opposite direction, I say if you want to remove data, but the first one you want to remove maybe the last one. So remember, we use this dot pop to remove the last data. To remove the first, you will use dot shift. And then you fit also save the data where you just remove into a new variable, just like we do with dot pop. Finally, the last method where I go show you for our array method, and the method where we take the add something to the first place of our array. Remember, we don't check how to remove the last place. We don't check how to add to the last place. We don't check how to remove from the first place. Now, to add to the first place, you will use dot on shift. So we go write them normal like we did write them before. We go write the name of our array where we will try modify. Then we go add this method dot shift. Then inside the bracket of this dot shift, we go add the data where we try add to the beginning of our array. And just like with dot push, if we push one single data, if we push one single array, and if we push all the data where they inside our array using this spread dot 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 notation. As always, I would like tell you say no need to cram methods for JavaScript for programming. No bother yourself by saying, oh, I got grammar. No, just understand what you really try, achieve. Understanding is better than cramming. Once you understand them, you they work on your own project, you they practice. You realize, say, oh, I work out something to the end of my array. What do you take the job? You check them, you use them. Now, like that, it will become part of you without having to memorize. If you say me, you memorize, you know, fit memorize everything, because we still get so many different methods we no go cover for this class. So you go guys research them on your own. Just Google simple array methods in JavaScript. Google will give you so many more that you can think of, and then by the time where you they aware say okay they exist and you they use them for your program, or by the time where they watch tutorials of people where they use them for their program, very soon you self go understand them and it will be second nature to you. Ladies and gentlemen, now we go discuss JavaScript functions. Functions na the backbone of any programming languages, and now the backbone of JavaScript, because the reason why would they use functions for programming na because say them would they take avoid writing the same things over and over and over again, writing long code every time we want to do something. But with programming, the very essence of programming, the reasons why we they use programming, do so many things today, and because say programming they help us find smart way to do things instead of wasting time and effort. Programming go simplify and it go automate them so that it go dey more effective. And na functions they make these possible. Now, functions I dey always tell people now like machines. You could take in different raw materials so that all the raw materials go come out as finished product. Understanding functions at first fit dey tricky, especially for people who just they learn programming from scratch. So I want make you pay special attention to this part of our lesson. Myself, I could try my best to explain everything as simply as possible. So first, I will begin with how we dey write simple function for JavaScript. Say we get plenty numbers and we want multiply these numbers by 10. Now the thing we want do, because we just want multiply them by 10, we fit write all our numbers out and we fit dey multiply them one by one. Or we fit do something smart. We fit write function which say if we take in any number and multiply am by 10 for us. So instead of writing the same expression every time we want multiply something by 10, we go just use the function do am for us. So for this first number as my example, instead of writing 200 times 10, I go put an inside a function. So now like this with the right function for JavaScript, you go first write the keyword function, then you go write the name of your function. Just like we dey give our variables names, we dey also give our functions names. So I go name this my function multiply. But after the name of your functions, you must always put these open and close brackets. This one dey very important. No forget to open and close brackets after you write the name of your function. Like how the computer go know say na function you dey write be this. Then after the open and close brackets, you go open another kind of bracket, which is curly brackets or curly braces. Now for inside these curly brackets, now you could write anything what you want make your function do. The logic of your function now with the color. So now inside here the logic go dey. So what do you want to use our function do? You want to use our multiply numbers by 10. So first we go begin by writing a number, add coding one number inside 200. So we go write 200 times 10. Now waiting our function to do with that. But now we don't write our function. You normally see our function go run here to no. For programming, writing functions, they're different from declaring functions. If you write this code we write, it just means say you don't write your function, but you no go do anything. Your program no go run this function until you call the functions. And like this, we dey call functions for JavaScript. We go write the name of the function we want call and the open and close bracket of the function. We go write them on your own line. If you write them like this, that simply means say you don't call your function. So writing your function alone, declaring it, is not the same. Once you write them, you must eventually call them. Sometimes you go want to write your function just to write them down. You never use them. Then later in your code, you uncall that function. Or if you write them and immediately call them. Now anyone really you want to do, they accepted. But you must call this function like this to activate them. Now, if we call our multiply function, wetin you go do now say it go multiply 200 by 10. But just because say our function don't do something, you normally say it go return the value to us. If you call this function, you just dey tell am to multiply 200 by 10. And we go do them for the background, but you no go surely say I don't do anything. You no go give you any value because you no ask for value. And the thing with programming be that you must give the completer instructions, and that the instructions will give and he go follow. He no go do wetin you no ask him to do. So you ask him to multiply 200 by 10, but you no say give me this result. Then he no go give you your result. To make sure say he give you your result, we go use the return keyword. So instead of just writing 200 times 10, we go come write return 200 times 10. So when we call this function for here, you know we'll just multiply 200 times 10. e go give us the value back, and we fit can use this value do anything we want. So if we console.log this function call, e go return the answer to us and show am for our console. But before we will just multiply am, e no go show am for your console. And your result inside your function, you fit also save am inside a variable. So instead of saying return 200 times 10, we go say let result equal to 200 times 10. Then we go come return result, wey be the product of this 200 times 10 we don save inside our result variable. We go come return the result variable. So if we still console.log am, when we call am, e go still return our value. Na the same thing we dey do, but we just dey do am in a different way. And then after you call your function, the result wey comot, you fit come save am inside a variable outside of the function again. That is, if you want save that value to use am again, you fit save am by the normal way we would dey save variable. But you could just say let your variable equal to this function call, because you know say this function call go return the value, and then the value go save inside our variable. Now, even though we don write our function to multiply 200 times 10, this one no mean say our code makes sense, because this code as e like this, e no make any sense. Why you dey write function just to multiply 200 times 10? Anytime when you call this function, na the same thing e go dey do over and over again. No be why we dey write function be that. We dey write function to make our life dey easier. We need to make sure say this function fit multiply any number by 10, not just 200. And to do this, I go introduce you to wetin we dey call arguments. In functions, arguments like we dey use make our code dey flexible, not just in JavaScript, but in all programming languages. For JavaScript, we get specific way we will take the write our argument. We dey write our argument inside this bracket where I tell you say you must open after your function name. Your bracket fit be empty if your function no collect any argument, but most functions dey collect argument. So you go write a variable name inside these brackets when you dey declare your function. You fit use any name for your argument, it no really matter. So for our arguments, we go use A. So now inside our curly braces where we get 200, we go write A. So wetin this new function dey do now na say e dey multiply A times 10 instead of 200 will we add code inside them. We dey make am more flexible by saying any argument wey the users give you, na in make you multiply it by 10. So now it fit multiply any number by 10, not just 200 like before. But now we don't get our argument for you. How we go take supply the number when we want multiply? Well, you go do am when you dey call the function. At the point where we dey call our function, since this function now don't start to dey take in arguments, we must supply arguments. And for our function, since that one A we write for here, we dey talk say na only one argument our function dey collect. So once we call this our multiply function, we go supply a number inside this bracket, and this number na im go represent our A. So na im go be wetin we go multiply by 10. We fit use 100. If we call the multiply with 100, that means say you go multiply 100 by 10. And if we call the function with 200 as our argument, you go multiply 200 by 10. Now our function don't dey flexible, because we fit call am with any number, and we fit use am multiply any number by 10, and it go give us the right result wey we fit save inside another variable. Now, what I mean by saying our function go save us a dig, and you go make our program dey very effective, so that we no go need to repeat the same thing over and over again. We fit make our function even better. We fit make our function better by saying, okay, we don't even need you to multiply any number by 10. No, we won't make you dey more effective, so that you go fit multiply any number by any number, not just 10. So as we do before, we will give am one argument of A. Now we go give am two arguments, A and B. Remember, I tell you, this name of the variables we will put inside our argument, if it be anything, You fit write goat and dog as your argument and it go do the same thing as long as you use am right inside your function. So if we make this argument goat, that means say this a times 10, it must be goat times 10. But still the same thing with the talk, say any argument wey we provide at the point of calling this function as our first argument, mine go represent this goat. And then if we write our second argument as dog, anything wey we use dog do inside this function, na the second argument wey we provide for our function called, now you must use in the place of that dog. So now we will use our A and B. We go all put that inside our curly braces as A times B instead of A times 10. So now our function don dey more robust. If we multiply any first argument wey we supply with the second argument, so you don't necessarily need to multiply am by 10. No. Now you don dey more versatile. If we put for our function called 10 and 10, that means we dey multiply 10 by 10. And if we put 200 and 10, we dey multiply 200 times 10. But now we fit also put other things in the second argument. We fit put 1,000, we fit put 10,000. So if we put 2 and 1,000, that means we dey multiply 2 times 1,000. We fit put 2 and 3 to multiply 2 times 3. So now you see our function don better pass the previous one. And inside your function, you fit get so many logics. There's no limit. So imagine say you dey try just with one number, you want add 10, then later you want divide 2, then later you want multiply 1,000. Anything we want to do inside your function, if you write that inside this function, and then next time we want use them with any number, you could just write one line of code instead of rewriting the logic inside your function over and over and over again for every single number. So now you don't see how we dey take use functions make our life dey easier for programming. We fit use our functions to do any operation on any data type. I know say for our example, we dey use and do mathematics or numbers, but you know those they limited to mathematics. We fit use and do something to our strings or our arrays. We fit use and convert all our strings, for instance, to lowercase. We fit use and manipulate any data. And also our functions, we get more than one argument, more than 2 arguments, and even more than 3 arguments. But like I said, nature say you use them correctly inside your functional logic, inside these curly braces. If you want make argument dey optional for your function, you also fit do am. So this one means say, okay, our function fit collect argument, but just in case we not give you any argument to every column, is still dey acceptable. Before we complete our functions lesson, make I quickly tell you something about scope, which we call scope for programming. Scope simply means say which part of our code na in our variables go work. Usually you fit define variables in one of 2 places. For example, if we look at this our example code, we see that we declare one variable outside our function and we declare one variable inside our function. This variable we will declare outside our function for our main code area, many we dey call global variable. This global variable, it get global scope. And what this one mean? I say we fit use them anywhere in our program and it go work even inside a function. So if we declare a variable here outside and then you want to use the variable inside this function, we fit also use them. We fit console log them, we fit change in value, we fit modify and we fit do anything to am. But if you declare variable inside this function, this one no be global scope. Now wetin we dey call local scope, and it means say you fit only access and use this variable really declare inside this function. If you only use am within the function, if you try access am or use am outside your function, e no go work because to your computer, this variable no exist outside the function. If you attempt to console log am, it will just give you error say this variable no exist. It is very important to make your code, whenever you dey write programming code, it is very important to make sure say your code dey very versatile, it dey dynamic. It no be just one long line of code which just dey run without direction. It is important to make sure say your code fit make decisions based on certain conditions. This ability to make decisions na wetin we dey call conditionals. If statements and conditional statements na im we take dey help our code decide wetin to run, which direction to go based on certain conditions. To write if statement for JavaScript, you go first write the keyword if, then you go open and close brackets. Like say you dey write function and then curly braces. The difference between function and if statement for here na say, even though we go first write the keyword and open and close bracket, with function, you go write the name of your function. But with if statements, you no need to write any name. If statements no dey get name. So you go write the keyword if, then open your bracket, then open your curly brackets. Now, we get some common operators and operations wey we dey use inside if statements. Na those operations na you go put inside this bracket. The condition wey you wan check if e dey true or not, na you go put inside this normal bracket. And then inside this curly braces, you go put wetin you want do, wetin you want make your program do. If the condition wey dey inside this normal bracket, if e return true, if it evaluates to true, that if the condition dey true, then e go run the code wey dey inside these curly braces. But if the condition no dey true, e go skip this section. E no go do anything. Now, the common operators and operations wey we dey put inside this bracket, one of them na equal to. We dey check if two things dey equal to each other. E fit be numbers, strings, any data type. E fit be arrays. E fit even be one single variable you wan check. For instance, make we check if two variables dey equal to each other. To check if two things dey equal to each other for JavaScript, we dey use the double equal sign. For instance, make we get two variables A and B, and both of them dey equal to 5. That's both of them na 5. To check if dem dey equal to each other, you go write A equal to B. Why we dey use equal to? Na because say one equal to, one single equal to, we take the assign variables like we do for here. But to compare, you guys use double equal to. You fit compare one variable to another, like say A equal to B. Or if you compare the values directly, like say 5 equal to 5. Both of these statements go evaluate as true because yes, A na 5 and B na 5. So yes, both of them dey equal to each other. Na true. And then 5 na 5. So yes, this one too dey equal to each other and na true. But if we change the value of A, now A no be B. And in this case now, if we write A equal to B, it will return false. You fit put your if statement inside a function so that you no go need to dey change the value of your if statement every time. You go just use one function wey you go supply argument and e go come dey help you check. Remember, we don discuss functions. Said functions, we dey use them, they make our life dey easier. So now, maybe you write one function, we go call am check similarity. Then this function will take two arguments, first data and second data. Then for the logic of our function, we go come write an if statement. We go say if open bracket first data double equal to second data. That is, if the first data is the same thing as the second data, then deal a thing with the inside this following curly brackets. So we go open curly braces to write wetin we won't do if these two variables dey the same. For now, without do something simple, we go console.log these two variables are the same. So now, if we want call our function and we pass in two arguments with this function, e go check if both of them dey the same, and if they dey the same, e go console log these two variables are the same. But if they no dey the same, e no go do anything. And we fit pass any two variables inside our function. E fit accept string. If we pass string, it could check if the two strings they equal to each other. And if it accept number, if we pass number, then it will check if the two numbers they equal to each other, and so on. May we call the function with 10 and 10. If we pass in one string of hello world and then the second string of hello bay, you could try to compare these two. Since they no be the same, you no go do anything because our if statement evaluates to false. Again, all of these things we don't learn now before. Now, another thing where I will introduce you to quickly, now the triple equals to operator. This triple equal to operator, they different from the double, but are still generally the same thing that they do. Then they check if two things they equal. But for JavaScript, if you get number, let's say you get number as 10, and then you get another string as 10. Both of these things are different data type, but if you check them with double equal to, you go evaluate to true, because JavaScript, they do type conversion. So you go convert both of them to the same type automatically for you, and you go return true. But if you don't want make you do this thing, if you want make it return false, if they no be the same data type, then you go use triple equal to. So if we use this triple equal to for this string 10 and number 10, you no go return true. You go evaluate to false. Another common operator and operation we will do with if statement now to check greater than, less than, greater or equal to, lesser or equal to. Obviously, all of us sabi wetin be greater than. We just dey check if this number dey greater than this number. And the same thing with less than. We dey check if this number dey lesser than this number. If we check if this number greater than this number and e dey greater, e go return true. But if e no dey greater, e go return false. Same with less than. If we check if this number dey less than this number and e dey true, e go return true. But if the number no dey less, e go return false. Now, greater or equal to means say we dey give am two options. We dey say first, check if e dey greater. If e no dey greater, then check if e at least dey equal to. For instance, if we check if 10 dey greater than 10, the answer na false. For 10 no dey greater than 10, 10 dey equal to 10. So if we check if 10 dey greater or equal to 10, then this one na true, because yes, e no dey greater, but at least e still dey greater. E go only return false if e no dey greater and e no dey equal to. Same with less than. We dey ask, shey this number dey less than this number? No. Okay, but shey this number at least dey equal to this number? If yes, then e go return true anyway and execute any statement wey we write after. If no, e go return false and e no go execute. But e go return false only if e no dey less than and e no also dey equal to. We also get the not equals operator. This not equals operator, we dey write am with exclamation mark before the equal to. This one now we say check if this number no dey equal to this number, or is this string no dey equal to this string. So if you say check if 5 not equal to 5, that equal return false, because obviously 5 dey equal to 5. But if you check if 3 is not equal to 5, then yes, 3 no dey equal to 5, so it will return true. Remember, all of these expressions we will write with our double equal to, greater equal to, less than or equal to, not equal. All of them, they return true or false. And now the true or false where they return, now it will determine whether the code will they inside our if statement or run or not. We also get the and or operators. We dey use the and or operators to check two or more statements together. We leave them to check two different things at once. For instance, if for our code, we dey check our user's name and their age. We want check for one particular user, and we want check whether this username they equal to Precious. And at the same time, we want check if their age they greater than or equal to 18, if they be at least 18 years old. Now, we fit write down two different if statements. Now, our first if statement, we go say if name equal to Precious. And for our second if statement, we go say if age greater or equal to 18. But instead of writing two different if statements like this, you fit join both of them together using the and operator. We dey use am with this double ampersand symbol. So we go write if, open our brackets, and inside our brackets we go first write the first condition, which is name equal to Precious. We dey check if the name na Precious. So we will all write this and with this double ampersand, age greater or equal to 18. So now he go check these conditions first before he execute wetin dey inside his braces. And wetin do the condition we want make he check? We want make he check first, is the name equal to precious? If the name no dey equal to precious, then he no go even bother to check the second thing, because for this code to return true, both of them must be correct. If he doesn't say the first one no dey correct, he will come out. But if he check, okay, the name is equal to precious, he still not go run until he check the second condition, which is okay, is the age greater or equal to 18? Yes, then he go come run. No, then he no go run. Now, if you only need one of the conditions to be correct, he gets way with the right time one too. So in this case, one checked if this one or this one is correct. We know the check if this one and this one. With or, we only need one of them to be correct. And now double pipe symbol. This symbol for here, now in we take the right our or statements. So now with this one, I would say check if len equal to precious or age is greater or equal to 18. He only need one of these ones to return true for him to execute our code. So if you take the first condition, I may say yes, the name is equal to precious. One of them don't dey true be that. Say he go do wetin I want, may he do. But if you check and the name is not equal to precious, he will say, okay, I still give you one more chance. Check if at least the age they equal to or over 18. If this one too no dey true, then he no go work because none of them dey true. But if this one dey true and this one no dey true, or this one dey true and the second one no dey true, if only single one of them dey true, it be enough for our code to run. This code no go run only when both the name and the age no dey correct. That is, the name no be precious and the age no be at least 18. Another thing we he check with if statements la if something dey naturally true. By naturally true, which I mean say we no need to compare am with something else, either with double equal to or greater than or less than loop. We dey check if JavaScript automatically, naturally recognize this data as true. And yes, you get some data which JavaScript be automatically and naturally recognized as true. And you get some where it automatically recognize as false. Example of the data where JavaScript they automatically recognize as false, now the Boolean data false. So if you literally write false as your variable, then yes, false will evaluate to false. Other data with the naturally return false now 0. If you check 0 inside if statement, it will automatically return false. If you check undefined inside if statement, it will automatically return false. Null, empty strings, and data will not exist, like variables will never assign, create, or declare. All of these ones, if you put them for your if statement, it will automatically return false. Any other data apart from all of these ones where they automatically return false will return true. So if you get variable of Boolean true, numbers, any numbers when no be 0, any string when no be empty, any variables when no be undefined, all of these ones go automatically return true, even if you put only then inside if statement without comparing to anything else. So make we do some examples and tests. I go write this if statement. This if statement, I want make it log this is true if anything where we evaluate inside and return true. Now we will test these variables and we will see whether they will log these strings or not. The first variable will use the Boolean true. Now, has something say this one will equate to true or not. Yes, it will equate to true because true, not true. What is the variable of false? Then no, you no go log anything because false no be true. False, not false. Now, what if we evaluate this number 10 and we check the condition of the number variable? Say this number will be true or not. Yes, it will be true because any number will not be 0 will be true. Even if we do 100, 5,000, 5 million, any number, as long as it no be 0, it will return true on its own. Now, if we set our variable as undefined, null, or empty string, I would evaluate them. Which it will return? It will return false. All these ones could be very important when you start to write code, because when you start programming, one thing we would do now, you would use if statements to check if your users don't provide data. For instance, if you try to collect paper from your users like their names and their email, and you receive this data inside one variable, you go first check if this data contain something before you send down to your database. Make you no go dey send empty data to your database. So wetin you go do na say you go run if statement on that variable. Let's say you set the variable of the data where you wan collect to be first name and email. Now you go write if open brackets, then you go write the name of that variable, first name. Now wetin you dey check here na say you dey check if this variable dey empty or if e contain something, because if e contain something, anything wey no be zero or empty string, then e go return true. But if e contain empty string or undefined or null or zero, that means say they never provide wetin you need. And for your if statement, you go don specify if this thing return true, then do wetin I wan make you do. Maybe send the data to database. But if you don't contain anything, then no do anything. And if you know wetin you dey expect, you fit also directly check if the data wey they provide na wetin you dey expect. For instance, if you ask them to give you the capital of Nigeria and you set the answer to a variable, they'll call this variable capital. You fit directly check if the variable wey they provide to you na the correct answer, which is Abuja. So you go just write if statement to check if capital wey they provide equal to Abuja. Then you all write what you want may it happen if they get them correctly. If they get them correctly, then this condition go evaluate to true. And then you go write, congratulations, you are correct for the console log. Now, all the if statement we dey do since morning, we dey use am write or code wetin we want may it happen if our condition evaluate to true. But if it evaluate to false, we know they say may it do anything. We do just say may it jump. Now wetin we dey write with that automatically say just keep H code if this thing not evaluate to true. But you also fit tell them to do one specific thing if your code evaluate to false. And how would you do am? I say would you use else statements. So after the curly brackets of your if statements, you fit also write else. Then you will come open the curly brackets of your else. Now this one will take, they say, okay, firstly, check this condition if it's true. If it's true, do it in the inside this first curly braces. And tell if you know they true, which is else, do within the inside this second curly braces. So now, if our data no dey equal to each other in this our function, we will come back else console log these two variables are not the same. If statement with only one if like this, we take they use them check one condition. However, if you get several conditions where you want check one after the other, you fit use what they call else if. Now, I know they talk about and or like we do before. Remember those and or with the reason check two conditions at the same time. But if you want check more than one conditions at different times, one after the other, then you go use what they call chained if statements. I will give you example. Let's say you be teacher with the grade your student exam scores. You won't give them grade based on the range of their scores, so that you wonder if they get A, B, C, D, E, or F. You should check them by using chained if statement. To chain if statement now, we go first set our score variable to the score of one student. Now we go on write if statement to check if the score they greater or equal to 90. In this case, we go console.log your grade is A. Now this code go work well for any student will score more than 90 or 90. But let's say our student score 67. Then once it check with this if statement, it will say, oh, his score no they greater than 90. So it no will do anything. We will just keep this code. We will fix them by writing an else statement. So after the first if, we go write else console log your grade is not A. So this one now, it will check if the score did 90 or more. If the score did 90 or more, it will say congratulations, your grade. Nah, okay. But if your score no day at least 90, then it will say, well, your grade will be A. This one they're good, but still it not that good enough. We still won't know if na B, C, D, or F. So we go write more if statements, which we call else if statement. So after our first if, we go write else if the score is greater or equal to A3, console.log your grade is B. So within this one go do last it will first check if the score na at least 90. If you see that the score will be at least 90, you will come go to the second else if to check if it be at least 80 or more. Then if you be 80 or more, he will come and say, okay, your grade now B. But if you not be 80 or more, we will write another else if. This one will check for 70. And then we go write another else if. This one will check for 60. And then at least 50. So now you will check everything step by step. And then finally we'll go write our else. Now this else will cover anything will be 0 to 50. And for that one now, we will say your grade is F. Now notice here for our else statement, no brackets in front. No bracket in front of our else statement because the else statement no dey check for conditions. If they do, wait till you won't do after we don't check for all of our conditions with if and else if. Now, cases where we dey use change else if statements like this, they're very common for JavaScript. And like I tell you, the aim of programming now to make our life dey easier by finding effective, easy ways to write code without repetition. If you get code and listen to this code, they repeat things, mean say your code no be good code with that because you need to find a way to make it very efficient without repetition. And so to avoid repeating else if statements will go long like crazy, you get wetin we take the drum with the column switch statements for JavaScript. Switch statements na meter way of writing changed if statements. So maybe we say we get one color variable and we set them to blue, but these are our color variable fit be anything and we want check wetin it be before we do something. How we go do am? We fit write change if statement to say, okay, if color equal to blue, do something. Else, if color equal to yellow, do something. Else, if color equal to purple, do something. But if it also use switch statements, to write switch statement, you go first write the keyword switch, then open and close bracket. Inside this bracket, we go write wetin we dey compare our cases to. Our cases na wetin dey inside our variable. So now, in this case, we dey try compare our first case to the value inside our color variable. Now, when we put color here, switch, they always compare strictly. So if you write 10 as number and they compare them to string 10, you know who evaluate to true, you go evaluate to false. Automatically, now triple equality they use behind the scene. So now for your first switch case, you go write the first case for case red. That is the cases where our color variable now red. We go tell them to do waiting they under this colon after this line. In our own situation now, we just want to make a console log. This color is red. Again, what would they do be very simple. We they give the computer one case and say compare the case to this value inside the switch statement. If they are the same, if this comparison return true, then do within the conda. Then we go write our second case. Another thing we want check. Case yellow. That is check if this case, which is yellow, they're the same as within the inside our variable. If it is the same, then do within the under this case. If you know they're the same, then move on. Check the next case. He will continue to compare each of our cases to waiting the inside this switch bracket, which is our color variable. And he will only run our case if the comparison they true. And then finally we will write the default, which na like our else statement. That is the final thing we won't do. If all our checking, all our conditions we will check for, if none of them return true, that is, if none of these things might retain with the inside our variable we will compare to, then do this default case. For our first example of the result scores of our students, we will try a grade. The fit also like this one as switch statement. If we write them as switch statement, then it will be like this. Now, this is a basically like the last switch statement. We get our switch, then we get our various cases, then we get our default. But get one big difference between them. For our switch bracket, we put true. Remember, for our last one, we put the variable where we try check color. This one will not put the variable score because for this one we try check range. We try check if the score now from one number to one number. So we not necessarily they compare the number exactly with the number. If so, we compare the number exactly, and we feel like this variable here. But because we compare range, we go do smartly. We go compare our evaluation with true. Now when we put true inside this switch bracket, so now we dey say if this statement when we put here evaluate to true and it is the same as the true which dey inside our switch, if both of them are true, then run this code. But if not, then no run the code. Now, we don't already cover a lot under if statements and conditionals, and we don't almost reach the end of the lesson. But before we conclude, I want maybe look at one thing where new programmers, they always make a mistake. We say he will show you who be good programmer and who be bad programmer. Now, see this code now. We dey use if statement to return Boolean true or false. We dey talk say if mine greater than 7, return true, and if not, return false. But you see, all of this code now nonsense code, because these expressions, like I tell you, every time when they do equal to or greater than equal to, they use these operators, it go naturally return true or false. So you may need to say if this one are true or false, return true, or else return false. No, because now what it do naturally with that. If you simply write 9 greater or equal to 7 or 9 equal to 8, he don't already write his if statement for you on that the would, because now waiting this 9 equal to 8, it deal with that. Like just like one simple if statement, you say if this thing they equal to 8, automatically return true. If not, return false. So no need to write this long code to return Boolean values with if statement. You only need to write if statement if you want to do something else. After you check your conditions, whether they equate to true or not, then you will go write what you want to do after beside this braces. We dey use variables for JavaScript to save singular data, and the name we want take store this data now the name of the variable. Now we dey use arrays to save a lot of data inside one variable, and we dey separate them with comma. However, the problem with this array to save plenty data must say all of this data go share one singular name, and even though we fit access this data using bracket notation, it go still dey hard for us to distinguish wetin each data stand for on its own. Wetin I mean by this? May we say we dey try save the data of how much we don dey spend. May we say we buy code switch cost for 3,000 naira, and we save am inside this variable we call cost, and we go set them to 3,000 to indicate how much we spend. But now, not be only this cost now we buy other things. So let's say that same week we buy food for 5,000, and then we also spend 3,000 on transportation, and we give our friends gifts of 6,000. Now, if we simply save all of this data inside this variable, inside this array, it go take hard for us to understand which number belong to which spending, because now our array will just give am one singular name, but not be this name will give her cost, not be only this name, now it be the things where we spend. If we change them to spending, it still not show us what we spend each money on. We need way for programming to store data. We will also allow us to label each data to know exactly what each data dey for, and now where objects come in for JavaScript. Be that object, they allow us to write data and give them label. For example, in this object we I create now, you go see say we arrange our spendings, and now we fit not only know how much we spent, but also wetin we spend for. Now an example of how we dey write object be this for JavaScript. We dey write our object normal. I'd say we dey write variable. We go use the keyword let, then we go use the name of our object and equal to. But instead of square brackets when we dey use for arrays, we go use curly brackets for our object. Then inside the curly brackets, we go write what we dey call key value pairs. The name of the data wey we dey stop na im we dey call the key or the property. Na im we dey write first, and then the data wey we want store na im we dey call the value. Both of them together na im we dey call key value pairs. Then after you write your first key value pair, you go put comma. Then for the second line, you go write your second key value pair, your third, and so on. You fit write as many as you want store inside your data. Now, your object properties or the keys for JavaScript fit be any data type. If it be number or if it be string, and the value where you want save also fit be any data type. If it be number, if it be string, if it be array, like this example where we get for here, if it even be another object, so you will get object inside an object. And for JavaScript, you fit also save function inside an object. For this example now, you will certainly get various data types inside our object, both as our property and as our value. We get strings, numbers, booleans, and arrays. You go also notice say for some of these key value pairs, our keys will be our properties. Some of them get quotation marks and some no get. This is because say for JavaScript, if your key now one single word, we no get number or any special character, you fit use them with or without quotation marks. You fit choose to use quotation marks if you like, and you fit use one quotation mark or double quotation marks if you like, and you fit also choose to not use quotation marks. However, if space dey between your string for your property, that is, you dey use words will be more than one word, we get space between them, or you dey use special characters like hashtag, @ and all other symbols, then you must use either single quote or double quote. Now, one thing wey you fit use your object do, in fact, these are the major reason why objects they exist. Now, to create different data of things would belong to the same category. Which I mean by this, let's say we get two dogs, dog 1 and dog 2. We know say, okay, these two things are dogs and they get the same properties. So if we save the data of the properties of both our dogs inside two objects, now what do we call object-oriented programming? Now, let's say for our dog 1, he get the name of Lucky and the breed of German Shepherd, and he age na 4 years. He hobbies na dancing and playing fetch. We fix save this data inside an object like this. We use our name to represent a name, Lucky. We use the breed as German Shepherd and the age as 4 years old. The hobbies, because there be more than one, we create an array for him. Now, for our dog 2, we do the same thing. The name of this dog 2 now na Rex. The breed na bulldog. The age na 5 years old, and he hobbies na jumping and rolling on the floor. We also save this one inside beta using an object like this. So now you don't know how to write objects or to use key value pairs for JavaScript. But how we take the access one value inside our object? Well, we fit access value inside our object in two ways. The first na what we call dot notation, and the second na bracket notation. Dot notation is very simple. You could just write the name of your object dot the name of the key. So if we try access the first value for this our object now, we could simply write the name of the object dot the property of that specific value we would try access. So let's say we try access the name of our dog. We could just write the name of our object, which is dog 1 dot the property, which is name. So dog 1 dot name. And this one now will return the value of our dog name. Same for our dog 2. If you want to know the name of the dog 2, you could just write dog 2 dot name. And if you want to know the hobbies, you could just write dog 2 dot hobbies. If you want to know the age, dot age, and so on and so on. The second way now to use bracket notation. Remember, we use bracket notation for our arrays, but for bracket notation for arrays, we use the position, the number. We represent the position. We start from 0, 1, 2, 3. For bracket notation for objects, you will use the name of the key or the property. So now, if you write the name of our object, open square bracket, close square bracket, and inside this square bracket, we write the key. It will return the value where that key represents. But for this one, you must know, say, if your property gets double quotation marks, you must put the double quotation mark inside. In fact, now why would they use this bracket notation to be that? Because if you get property will be more than one word with space between them, or any property we get double quotes, if you try to use dot notation, it no will work because of this space. So we go use bracket notation. So let's say we give our dot one more property of vet visits to show how many times you don't go vet. If we want access this one by using dog1 dot vet visits, it not go work because of the space. But if we use bracket notation, dog1 open bracket, double quote, vet visits. Then it go work. Now, we fit use variable as the property of our objects we want access. What I mean by this, I say if we get one variable, let's say my key variable, and we set this my key variable to be equal to age. Now, writing doc2.age will be the same as writing doc2.myKey. This one they very straightforward because this my key variable we don't set them to age. So anywhere we use them, now like say we they use age. So if we say doc2.myKey, we just dey say doc2.age. So both of them will give us the value of our adult age. The same thing apply if the value of this variable now any other key or property for our object. As long as the variable now that key, if we use the name of your object dot that variable. Very simple. Now, just as you feel use your object property in dot notation to access the value of that property, you feel also use them to change the value. So instead of just accessing the property, you go reassign them. How you go take reassign them now? Saying you go write the name of your object dot the property like normal, but now you go cut equal to the value where they try change the property to. So now let's say we want change the name of our second dog. We want change them from Rex to Lucy. Instead of just accessing this dog2.name, we could say dog2.name equal to Lucy. So now if we console log our dog2, we go see say the name don't change. And just as we fit use dot notation to change value, we fit also use bracket notation to change the value as well. Another thing where you must know about object now, how to add new properties to your object. To add new property, you will do the same approach. You will use the name of your object, dot or bracket notation with the new property you want add, and then equal to the value of that property. So let's say you want give our dog a new property of bark to reflect how the dog they bark. We fit simply write dog.bark equal to woof woof. So essentially, since this dog.bark not exist before, it will automatically add new property of bark. If to say this bark exists before and we write this dog.bark, it will simply change the value. But since this .bark not exist before, it will add new property of bark and it will set the value to whatever day after this equal to, which is roof, roof. And we fit also use an add another property for our second dog. We will give a property of .bark with value of roof, roof. To delete property from your object, you go simply use the delete keyword. So let's say we want delete this .bark where we just add. You could just write delete .bark, which means so we now delete the bark property. Just like I tell you, say strings, numbers, and arrays, they get their own methods where we take they do things to them, maybe modify them or change them or check something in them. Objects also get their own methods as well. One common method we will get now to check if our object gets one specific property inside. This method with the column as own property. So to use this method, you will first write the name of your object, then you go put dot as own property. Then inside the bracket of this method, you could write the property where you did check for. So for instance, if you write our dog one dot as own property and then check for name, this one will return true because yes, our dog gets name property. If we do age, it will return true. If we do hobbies, it will return true. However, if we check for one property where our dog no get, it will return false. So if we check for, let's say, head or news or color or any other thing we will know right as part of our key value pairs, it will return false. Objects for JavaScript fit they very complicated. I tell you, see, if we store any data inside them, if we store simple data like Boolean, numbers, strings, but we also fit store complex data like arrays. We get arrays inside. We fit even store objects. We get objects inside, and that object to get objects inside, and that object to get object inside. Now, the reason is here for this kind of situation, we will get arrays inside objects, inside objects, inside arrays, inside objects. You feel they're very difficult to access our values, but if you understand the presuppose behind how we take the draw, it will make easy for you. You could just guys work your way back from inside the object, and you not really did that act once you understand. So I will give us example. we will take become familiar with how to do this one. We go call our object animal shelter. Now, for this animal shelter, we want to store different details about our animal shelter, and we go navigate this kind of complex objects. First thing we advise now for this our example. Now you go look at the first properties. So inside this object now, even though it is very complicated to the naked eyes, you go see that we get just 3 properties as the first properties. We get the properties name, location, and animals. And after you identify the first properties, you go come check which kind bracket follow am. If square bracket follow am, then you go see say the data will we store inside na array. If curly brackets, curly braces follow am, then you will know say na another object take inside this object. So for example, for this our location property, the data will we store inside na another object. And inside this our animals property, the data will we store inside na array. But this array gets 2 other objects inside. So if we want access, let's say, the first property inside our location property, then it could be just like we did to them. No need to be scared. Now, just like we do for our simple objects too. So it will be the name of our object dot the name of the property dot the name of the property inside the property. So it will be animal shelter dot location dot city. And for the second property, it will be animal shelter dot location dot stakes. And for this one, we get another object inside. It will be animal shelter dot location dot coordinates dot lat if you want access the latitude, or dot lon if you want access this longitude. Now, for the one that contain array inside, it will be animal shelters dot animal. But now you must remember, see, the array we dey try access, and remember how we dey access arrays now with bracket notation. So you no fit use dot notation for let, you go use bracket notation to denote which position of array you dey try access. So now the first object now we put out inside this array. So that can be the first position of our array. I remember the first position of array now 0, and the second position now 1. So for this first object with the inside this array, it could be position 0. Then once we write the position, we can't continue with our dot notation. So now if we say dot any of the properties where they inside this first object, maybe this type, breed, or age. And for this second object inside the array, it will be bracket 1 to show you that second position. Then dot any of the properties where they inside this one too. If it be type, breed, or age. Now finally, for our object lesson, I want to tell you the difference between which we call JavaScript object notation and objects, plain JavaScript objects. JavaScript object notation na JSON. JSON they very popular in the world of programming because na JSON we take the stored data for our database and transfer them from one place to another. If you save data to your database, let's say you don't collect data from your users, you won't save them to your database. Or you retrieve data from your database where you don't store before, from your backend to your front end, or from your database to your backend. You could always use JSON. The reason why they always use JSON, let's say, is they very lightweight and very simple to understand, very simple to use. Now, why programmers like them very much. But once you see JSON, for instance, this example of JSON we get, you will see that it is very similar to JavaScript objects. And yes, like because like from JavaScript objects, we derive JSON, but it gets some important differences between them. Now, the first difference, let's say, with JavaScript objects, your properties get single quote, double quote, and if you don't even get any quote at all, but with JSON, the properties must always get double quote. Yes, double quote. You know if you use single quote and you can use just the name of the property without quote. No, it must always get double quote. Now, how we differentiate between JavaScript object and JSON began. Another example, now say, as I tell you before, the value of your JavaScript object, if it be function, but when you write JSON, you know if you get function inside your JSON. No. Finally, for JSON, you know if you use comments. Comments they allowed with JSON. With JavaScript objects, ordinary JavaScript objects, you feel write comments for your code, but with JSON, you know if you write any comment. You fit easily convert JavaScript objects for your code to JSON, either to save them or to store am permanently. You fit also convert JSON wey you don save to JavaScript objects if you wan use am for your code. For this, we dey use two methods. One to convert from JavaScript object to JSON, and the other one to convert from JSON to JavaScript object. To convert data from JavaScript object to JSON, we dey use the stringify method, JSON.stringify. And to convert data from JSON to JavaScript object, we dey use JSON.parse. So let's say we get this example object and we want store am for our database. I tell you, you gats convert am first to store am. So you go use this JSON.stringify, and then inside the bracket, you go write the name of the data wey you wan convert to JSON, the name of the object wey you wan convert. Then you go come save this object inside one variable, and na this variable, this JSON variable we just create now, na you go save to your database, and vice versa. Let's say after you save the data to your database, you wan use am again for your website. You fit also convert am to JavaScript objects to use for your code. And for that, you go do the opposite. You will use JSON.parse. And this one will convert that JSON. You go also write the name of the data wey you dey convert inside your bracket. Then this one now, you come convert am from JSON to JavaScript object. Ladies and gentlemen, now we dey enter loops, for and while loops. Once again, we dey continue wetin we don dey talk about for a long time. We be say programming na wetin we dey use make our lives dey easier. We don see how we fit take make programming make our life dey easier with functions and if statements. Loops na another way wey we fit take achieve the same thing. A lot of time for programming, we wan do something over and over again for a specific amount of time. Now, instead of writing the same code every time we want to do this thing, we fit use loops. We could just write a loop with just one or two lines of code, and this loop now will help us do that same thing as many times as we like. That same 1, 2, or 3 line of code, we feel well now 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times if we sabi how to write loops. So loops na just one code we dey repeat something many times, but also it go repeat am in a way wey we fit control using specific conditions. Now, JavaScript get different styles, different types of loops wey we fit use for different scenarios. For loops are the most common type. For loops stay good when you know how many times you want to repeat something. We also get different types of for loops. The first one we get na the simple for loops, like this example. Now, for this example, you will see say the general idea of how we did the right for loops is simple. You go begin with the for keyword to say, okay, now for loop, I'm all right now. And then you go open brackets like we do for our function and our if statement. And then after the bracket of the for loop, you go call open another curly braces and close them. So now inside these curly braces, na in wetin we won't do as many times as we specify for our for loop, na here it go dey. So this code inside these curly braces go run as many times as we specify for our for loop. No matter what we write there, once we specify inside this bracket of our for loop, it go dey run continuously. So now in this kind of for loop, inside this bracket after the for keyword, we dey set our variable, initial variable I, we dey set am to be equal to 1. Now this our initial variable I fit be anything. It fit be J, L, it fit be words like brown color, blue, black. It fit be anything. But for programming, especially for JavaScript, we dey always use I as our initial variable. But just know say if it be anything, but to make them short and sweet, we dey use I. So we said let I equal to 1. Now you go know why we dey set this initial variable now. We dey set them because we need them to specify how many times we want make this code inside this curly braces run. So after you don't set your initial variable I, you go come set the condition where you want make the for loop dey terminate. So we said we want make the for loop terminate when our I variable becomes more than 5. Now when we use this statement, I lesser or equal to 5, then finally we set the increment. The increment na by how much we want make our I dey increase every time we run this code wey dey inside this curly braces. This kind loops dey very common for JavaScript and you will come across them for basically any program wey you see. So again, our condition dey talk say we want our initial starting point of counting how many times this loop go run. We want the initial starting point to be 1. Now why we set this initial variable to be 1. And then as long as this initial variable dey less or equal to 5, do wetin dey inside these curly braces. And then afterwards, add 1 to the initial variable. That is, when you don run this thing wey dey inside these curly braces for the first time, add 1 to the I. And then check if I still dey lesser or equal to 5, then run these curly braces again. Then add 1 again. And as long as this I still dey less or equal to 5, continue to run this code and increase them by 1 every time. So for the first time, I now 1. And since 1 dey less or equal to 5, our program will do wetin dey inside these curly braces, which is to console log wetin we still make the console log. But after he do this thing for the first time, he go add 1 to our I because of this I++. So the second time, our I will become 2. But since 2 still dey lesser than 5, that means it still fulfill this condition. And then it go run this code again. So it go console log this string again. But this time, our I go don change to 2. And then he go add 1 again after he run am for the second time. Then he go check again. Yes, Q still dey lesser or equal to 5. So he go run am again. The I will become 3. Yes, 3 still dey lesser. Then he go run am again. But after he run am the 5th time, he go come add 1. So now this I go become 6. So by the time we dey try run am the 6th time, he go first take the condition with our I be now 6. Shey e still meet this condition. Shey e still dey lesser or equal to 5. Then it will see say no, e no dey lesser. Now it will come stop. So this loop could only run 5 times because of the condition wey we specify. If you want this code to run 10 times, you fit also run. So now, instead, it will be lesser or equal to 10. If you want make it run 100 times, you fit go. If you want make it run 1,000 times, there is no limit. Also, if you want make the step, that is by how much your I they increase every time we run am once, you fit also dual. Now, we also get a specific kind of for loop. We would use loop through items in an array, and another way we dey take loop through items in an object. We go look at this one after we look at the second type of loops, will be while loops. While loops they loop as long as one condition take true. The way we dey take write while loop na kind of like for loop, but instead of writing 3 things for inside our bracket, that is the variables, the increment, and the condition, we go write am in a different way. For example, in this example code, we get our I variable wey we set to be equal to 0. This na our initial variable. And like I tell you before, this initial variable fit be anything. It fit be I, it fit be boy, girl, cookies, cup, it fit be anything, but na I most programmers they like use. Then after the initial variable, you go write the while keyword. And now inside the bracket of the while keyword, now you go write your condition. But now maybe 3 things they inside this bracket, but just 1 thing. The other 2 things, you go write them in different places. Only our looping condition go take inside this bracket. Then we go come write our curly braces to do whatever we want to do. Then we go come write our increment. So now in this our example code, as long as cup dey less than 3, e go continue to console log I don't drink cup. When cup reach 3, e go stop. Again, this one dey very simple. As you dey see, it just be like our for loop, but the difference that in how we dey write am. The first difference na how we write our initial variable. The second na how we write our condition, and the third na where we write our increment. In for loop, everything dey inside this bracket, but for while loop, we write our initial variable for in own line, and we write the condition inside the bracket of the while loop. Then we write the increment only after we don't do wetin we want do. The third kind of loop wey we get, but the do while loop. This one be like while loop, but you get one major difference. You see, the do while loop go run once first before it even check any condition. So you see, for while loop, it go first check the condition before it run the code in the curly braces. Even the first time, he go still check the condition first before he run am the first time. But for do while loop, you go first run the code within the curly braces first before it even start to care about any condition. So for this example code, we dey set the initial variable x to be equal to 0 like normal. But then now, we dey do the thing for the curly braces immediately without checking for any condition. Whether x dey greater or less than anything, we no care the first time. We dey do this thing first no matter what. Then once we do am that first time, e go unwrite the increment, and then at this point, e go come start to dey check for conditions. You fit even see for this example code, our condition na say x must be less than 0, but our variable na 0, and 0 no dey less than 0 because 0 na 0. So this code no suppose run if to say na while loop, but since na do while loop, e still run the code once, even though x less than 0 no dey true. But after that, once he run am the first time, he go come check the condition, and now he go stop. And for the two other kinds of for loops wey I tell you say we get, the for loop for looping through an array and the for loop for looping through an object. The first one for looping through an array na wetin we dey call for of loop. This for of loop go loop through items in an array of things. E no matter which things dey inside the array, you go loop through each item one by one. Now, even though you fit technically use normal for loop to look through an array, the problem with that na say sometimes you don't know how many things dey inside your array, or your array fit contain flexible number of things. So instead of writing one particular number where you want make the loop stop, you go write the for of loop to say, okay, just loop as many times as the things, the items were there inside this array. So even if your array change, even if it get bigger or it gets smaller, your code could still work. For example, in our example code, what we get for here, we get fruits array, which contain 3 items. Now, we think easily set our variable I to be equal to 0, and then our conditions will be whenever I is less than 3. But this one go work because we know how many items they inside our array. If our array gets bigger at any point or it gets smaller, then this code could turn to bad code, because now it could stop at 3 even when our array don't get as big as 5 or more. So instead of coding the number of times where you want make it run, you fit simply write your conditions inside your for of loop. How we take the write the for of loop now? Say you go write before keyword, and then inside your bracket you go create a variable will be the singular form of your array. So let's say our array now, this fruits array, we go on say let fruits of fruits. So this let fruit, now saying they create this singular form of the array which stand for each item in the array. So now it go call loop how many times the number of items will we get for our array, and it go always start with the index 0 to correspond to the first item in the array. Then the next time it go be index 1, index 2, and it go run until it reach the last item in the array. So for this example code, this code go loop 3 times. So the first time our fruits variable go stand for the first fruit, and the second time it go stand for the second fruit, and the third time it go stand for the third fruit. The beauty of this one now, I say, if our items for our array increase to 10 or 100 or even 1 million, we no need to write I equal to 1, I less than 100 or 1 million. Once we write this let fruit of fruits, we will use the singular form of our array to indicate each item, then it will continue to work no matter how many items they inside our array. And this singular variable we use, now the convention to always use the singular form of your array. Though, even if you use any other thing, it will still work, but you must be consistent to make them easy to remember and easy to follow. Now, why we always use the singular form of the array? for in loop, now in we take the loop through object. It just be like for of loop for arrays. But the difference now say objects, they get key value pairs, remember. So to use for in, you go use them like our example code where we get an object containing the name of a person, their age, and their city. So with for in, we fit access the key, which is the property, which our first variable after this for. This variable go represent each of the property and it go dey move to the next one as with a loop. He go start with the first property, the second property, the third, and so on. And then after the first variable, we go all write in. Remember, for arrays, write off. For properties now in. So for the variable in, then the name of our object. So now inside our curly braces, we don't get access to both the properties of our object with this first variable, which we choose to use key in our own example. We fit use anything, but with this variable, we fit get access to the keys. And then to get access to the value where this key represent, we go just use bracket notation. So we go say the name of the object where we dey loop through, open square bracket, then the key which we don't represent with this variable. This one now will give us the value. Remember, we dey use bracket notation to access the value. So we just dey say the name of our object, bracket notation, the key, then it will return the value. Now basically what we dey do for here with that. So the first time this loop go run, our key will be this name and our person key will be the person name, which will be Tunde. Then the second time our key will be age and our person key will be the person age. And the third time it will be the person city. And thanks to this simple code now, our loop will run only for the number of items we get inside our object. And even if our object expand, the code could still work and it go dey give us the correct value every time. Now, whenever you dey write loops, you get one small warning where you got to keep in mind every time. This one now wetin we dey call infinite loop. Infinite loop now wetin dey happen when your loop continue to run without ending. It go run forever, and this one will cause your program to terminate. It will crash your program. It will crash your system. So wetin you mean by infinite loop and wetin dey cause am? Make we check this example code. You see, inside this code, we write a while loop. But for our while loop, we simply dey check for I. And inside the second example, we dey check while true. You see, the first code no go terminate because just writing this while I, we dey say make our code continue to dey run this loop as long as I returns true. And I tell you say any number for JavaScript could naturally return true as long as there no be 0. So this our variable go continue to dey return true, and this code wey dey inside this curly braces go continue to dey run forever and ever and ever. We go lead to crashing of our program. So to make sure say your while loop or any loop wey you write for programming no crash your program, the condition must be something wey no go dey always true. E go gats reach false at some point. Now why when we write our first one, when we give a condition of I less than 5, we make sure say okay, after the 5th time, this condition no go dey true, so it will stop. But if you get code like this, we say the condition will always remain true, then your code go crash your system. And the second condition is even worse because this one we just simply they say while true, and true will always be true. So our code go loop forever, and this one too go crash our program. Finally, for our loop lesson, we go look at what we dey call nested for loops. Nested for loops means say you write for loops inside for loops, and yet if you write more for loops inside for loops like we do for this our example code. For this example code, what we dey do this simple. First of all, we dey loop 3 times. We dey loop 3 times in a normal way by setting our initial variable equal to 1. And we are saying as long as this variable dey lesser or equal to this one, then do wetin dey inside this bracket. But then wetin dey inside this bracket na another loop. And now wetin this second loop dey talk must say set another loop and then loop 3 times. Each time when you loop this second time, do wetin dey inside this second curly braces. And wetin dey inside the second curly braces, we just dey say console.log string row plus wetin the current value of our row looping variable be. Then we dey also the console log this string column to be wetin the current value of our column variable, which is our second variable in the second for loop, to console log wetin e be. Now, wetin you think say could be the result? The result could be this. The first time this for loop runs, the value of our row variable could be 1, and then e go check this condition, which is to say, shey 1 dey lesser or equal to 3. Yes. Okay. So now e go enter inside this curly braces to meet the second for loop. Now we know that the first value of the row now still 1 at this time wey we dey enter inside this second for loop. But now this for loop too go initialize a own variable. So the value of this variable for the second loop, which is the colon variable call, go be 1 as well. So now at this point, the row now 1 and the call now 1. Then he go run within the inside these curly braces of the second loop. Then he go back. But now he no go back to the first for loop because we still dey inside the second for loop. So he go back to the call of the second for loop. And at this point, our row, which is the variable of the first for loop, now still 1. But the value of the second variable of the second for loop call go be 2. Then it go run this curly braces again and then go back still to this second for loop because we still dey inside this second for loop. Then at the third time, the code will be 3. Now when he go back the fourth time to run this second for loop, he go turn this condition and he go realize, okay, now 4 don't dey greater than 3. So now he go back to our first for loop. And at this point now, the value of the row go be 2. Then since this 2 still dey lesser than 3, he go enter our second for loop and he go begin the process again. He go initialize am to 1. He will start with 1 again. Then he go check, okay, it is 1 lesser or equal to 3. Yes, he go run this with the value of row as 2 and call as 1. Then he go back still to this one inside. Now the call go be 2 and the row go still be 2, followed by the third time with row as 2 and call as 3. But then the fourth time, this condition no go dey true again. Then it will go back out. Now for this out, our row don't become 3 because this is the third time. Then is 3 lesser or equal to 3? Yes. So it will still go inside again. Start again from 1. So now the row is 3, the call is 1. Then he will come back inside A with call as 2. Then it will come back again with call as 3. At this point now, our row now 3 and our call now 3. Then he go back with the call as 4. But at the point where the call before, he go check our conditions. He say, okay, 4 is not lesser or equal to 3. So he no go run these curly braces. He go back out. Now for this out too, our row don't become 4. He go check on again. Is 4 lesser or equal to 3? No. So he go come out from this one again. So he go come out from this our for loop entirely. What you would see now, ma'am, normal if statement. Now, what would they try to do for here now to check if this condition returns true? That is, this variable A, they equal to this variable B. If yes, we want console log. Yes, they are the same. And if no, we want console log. No, they are not the same. But as I don't talk so many times for this course, programmers, they always look for ways to make their lives easier, ways to make things simpler and more effective. For JavaScript, we get lots of conditional statements we they write like this. So we have to find even simpler way to write them. Now why we get ternary operators with that. Ternary, they very simple. You could just write the condition where you want check followed by question mark. Now, anything will come after this question mark will be waiting the program will do if the condition return true. And then you go write colon. And whatever come after this colon, now go be waiting the computer will do if the condition they false. So this long if statement we read up here. Now basically the same thing as this ternary operator we will use for here. These are some other examples. You see say the first thing na the condition wey you wan check. You go just write am normal. Then you go write question mark, and if this condition dey true, that is if this 5 equal to 6 dey true, e go do wetin dey after this first question mark. But if not, e go do wetin dey after the colon. Wetin dey after this colon and the question mark fit be anything. If you want console log something, if you want push something to your database, if you want do something to an array, if you want run any function, but that thing go only run after you don check this condition. Now, if you wan check if one variable dey true or not, you fit also do am with ternary, because I tell you say for JavaScript e get some values wey dey naturally return true and some wey dey naturally return false. So if you wan check them with ternary, you fit also check them. You go just write their number and then follow am up with question mark and colon. Anything wey be number or string wey no be 0, undefined or empty string, you go always return true. So you go do wetin dey after the question mark. But anything wey be 0, null, undefined or empty string, no go do wetin dey after the question mark, because na false. E go do wetin dey after the colon. Now, you fit write ternary operator inside another ternary operator, that is nesting ternary operations. Even though this one sometimes it go look like complex code, it still dey very simple. Make we check one example. You see say for this code, we set our age variable to be 20, and now we dey say check if this age dey less than 13. If yes, return you are a child. But if no, we get another ternary inside this one. So first thing we dey check if the age dey less than 13. If the age dey less than 13, it go just return this string, you are a child, and save it into our, let's say, variable. Full stop. Nothing more, nothing less. But now, if this condition no dey true, if this age no dey less than 13, then it go perform another check. That is, it go jump to this second ternary operation. So it go perform another check. This time, it could check if the age dey lesser than 20. This other check wey we dey perform for here na the next thing, that the chaining of multiple ternary, because now we dey use more than one ternary operator. So if this second check dey true, then it go return the string, you are a teenager. But if this one also no dey true, then it go simply return you are an adult. Of course, you fit nest as many ternary as you want. For instance, even after the second check, you fit have another check to check if it dey lesser than 30 or it dey lesser than 50, as many as you like. Now, for this our code, wetin you think say the program will return? E go return you are an adult, because we don set our age variable to be 20, and 20 no dey lesser than 13, and e also dey not lesser than 20. 20 dey equal to 20, and since there is no lesser or equal in this second condition, e go simply go to the last string after this second colon. I want to show you some nice mathematical methods we fit use for JavaScript. The first one, now, how to generate a random number. To generate a random number for JavaScript, you go use math.random. This math.random method, they give you random number between 0 and 1. The number wey e go give go be 0 point something something. If it is 0.1, 0.9, 0.8, but the number will be decimal and it no go ever reach 1. You see now, for this code, we dey use the math.random method to initialize a new variable. So the value of this variable go be whatever number this math.random generate. Now, if we run this code, we fit see am for our console say it go always generate a random number every time. And this number can never be less than 0, and it can never be up to 1 or greater than 1. So you feed a math with this math.random. Let's say you want to get random number between 0 and 10. Now, this math.random, I tell you, it go always give you decimal, which is 0 and 1. So what you would do now, say you go multiply this math.random by 10. So essentially, you go first generate random number between 0 and 1. Then you go come multiply that number we generate by 10. So in this case now, the result go always be number between 0 and 10. If you want the number to be between 0 and 100, then you will multiply am by 100 and so on. Another math method we want check na math.round. This math.round method, now in we set the round numbers to the nearest whole number. So if we get any number with the decimal, you fit simply write math.round and it go round down up or down depending on whether the decimal dey up to 0.5. So you go write math.round and then inside the bracket you go put whichever number you want round. So in this example now, with the round 4.2. Now, so this 0.2 no dey up to 0.5, it go become 4. And then in this example, with the round 4.7, since 0.7 dey more than 0.5, it will become 5. Then we also get math.floor. This math.floor will always round go down to the nearest whole number, regardless of whether the decimal date more than 0.5 or not. So in this example, we get math.floor 4.9. This one will return 4. Yes, 0.9 dey more than 0.5, but .floor no care about that word. They say run down, no matter what, to 4. And then another one where we get my math.seal. Math.seal na the opposite of .floor. Math.seal go always round up, no matter if you did up to 0.5 or not. Now, we get other math methods like .power to raise something to the power of something, like maybe to the power of 2, 3, or 4. And then we get math.square root, where we take find the square root of any number. And then we get the .max and .min. These ones we find the highest or lowest values among several numbers where we pass inside the bracket. These are some examples, but we still get more, so many math methods, and you fit research them yourself and use them whenever you need to for your program. Now, we go to one very important topic for JavaScript with the color arrow functions. Arrow functions, they important because they make your functions they simpler and easier to read, and we they use them for so many JavaScript code, including front end, back end, React, Angular. No way where you go see JavaScript code and you know go see arrow functions. So wait till the arrow functions. Arrow functions now another way will you fit take write your function for JavaScript to make up short and keen. For instance, let's take a look at this normal function where we take this function greet. They take in one argument main, and then with the return this string hello plus this variable name, whatever they inside. So now if we rewrite them for arrow function, it go look like this. You see, say this one they simpler and cleaner, but waiting with the major difference and how we would take write arrow functions by themselves. Well, but first, if friends that say we no use the function keyword. So if you use arrow function, it don't remove the headache of writing a function every time. We only set the constant. Let's say we they create new variable create, and then we set this variable to be equal to an arrow function without the keyword. We set down to be equal to this our bracket with all our functions they get to take in arguments, and then we write this arrow which is just equal to and greater than sign. Then we open our normal curly brackets and we write the logic of our function inside. So now the major difference that say no function keyword and then his arrow equal to and greater than sign. Now we take the go to our curly braces. For our normal function, we they go to the curly braces directly without this arrow. But for our arrow function, we they use this arrow because we no get any function keyword. We only get our normal brackets with the collect key argument and then followed by the arrow, followed by the curly braces. Arrow functions will help you shorten your functions even more than this. If we help you write your function in one single line. Yes, if your function gets only one line inside the curly braces, if you turn them to arrow function, we go return the logic in one single line without even using any curly braces. For example, this our function will they return this string plus this variable at just one line and with the logic. So if we write them straight on one straight line without using curly braces, we go write down like say const greet equal to, then open our function argument, len, then the arrow function, and just write the logic direct. In fact, since not only one line, we not even need to add this return keyword at all. So our function automatically becomes like this. You see, say this one day so much shorter than writing this long code. But most say you fit only write them in one line if your logic inside your function curly braces not just one line. If now more than one line, then you must choose these curly braces even if you do use arrow functions. You don't already know a lot about arrow functions. You know the difference between normal function and arrow function. And you know, say if you write your arrow function in one line without curly braces, is the logic now only one line, and you not even need return keyword in this case. But what if the logic they more than one line? I tell you, say you still can use arrow function. Yes, you still can use arrow function even if you get long logic. But in this case, you must use your curly brackets. And if you get return, you must use your return. For example, for this our code now, with the take in argument and with the add put this A and B variables together, then with the return the value as so. Now, if you write them like this, we remove the function keyword and instead we use our arrow function. We create a new variable. This new variable, man, could be the name of our function. Then we equate them directly to the bracket with the taking the argument of our function. Then we write the arrow. Now, since this one now multi-line function, we got to write our curly braces and then write our logic as usual within the arrow keyword. Arrow functions feed the very simple if the parameter, that is the argument, now 1. So if the function gets only one parameter, you see, say for this our add numbers function, now 2 parameters should take 2 arguments A and B. But if the function gets only one parameter, you fit remove the bracket, decade the argument of your function, you fit remove the bracket entirely. So this bracket will they always write in front of our function. We no need that in our arrow function. If the parameter na just 1, if the parameter na 2, you must use this bracket. But if the parameter na 1, you fit no use the bracket. So this function will they use to square our arguments. If it be like this in the long form, but in the short form, if we they use arrow function, because we don't need to put back in brackets, it's like only one parameter, we go simply write out straightforward like this: x arrow function x times x. So this x now our argument, and then this x times x now our logic. So if we call this square function and pass in any number, you go simply multiply that number by itself, which is say equals square r. And this code now be very clean, much cleaner and much shorter than if you write the long form. Finally, if your function no get parameters at all, that is, if your function only take in any argument, then in this case, you must still open and close brackets. You know fit just leave space. Like this code will we get in our example here with the console.log this string. Simple. Now with our function, they do be that we know they take in any argument. And since we know they take in any argument, then if we want write them for our arrow function, we will just simply write the bracket like this. Then our arrow, again, console.log IZ, which is what we try to do. Arrow functions, they're very easy to understand and they're very easy to use the more you practice. Now, almost all JavaScript programmers now arrow functions that they use. Before, arrow functions not they possible, but since ES6 arrow functions don't they very common and now in most programmers they use ES6 might just updates with they make to JavaScript. And yes, JavaScript, just like any programming language, they consistently undergo updates because programming languages, just like human languages, must continue to improve. For any language, if you not improve, if you not introduce new words, new sentence structures, new semantics, then your language could die. So for JavaScript, so many developers to continue to introduce new concepts to make the programming be easier and more effective. Same with HTML, Python, Java, Rust, and other programming languages. Now, I want may we look at some common operations we they do for JavaScript. First, I want maybe look at what we dey call rest and spread. We already talk about spread briefly before when we dey talk about arrays. I talk say if you want add the data for one array to another array, you fit use dot push. But if you push an array directly to another array, e go add that entire array inside this new array as a whole. E be like say you dey put one box inside another box. But if you no wan put the entire array, the entire box inside the new array, then you fit spread the item inside the old array into the new array by using this dot 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 spread operator. You fit think of am like say you get two bags of sweets. If you want add the sweets wey dey inside the second bag to the first bag, you fit either add the entire bag of sweets inside the old bag with the individual sweets, or you fit just tear the bag and then spread the items inside the old sweets into the bag of the new sweets as well. And now wetin we dey call spreading be that. We fit also use spreading for objects. So if you want add an existing object inside a new object and you no want maybe object inside an object, you fit just spread the old object into the new objects, like this example where we dey add our old person object into this more info object. If we add them directly, it will just put this old object into the new object like this. But since we no want make it be box inside a box, we just spread them like this. Rest, like the opposite of spread. Rest mean pack these items together. They also look like three dots, but mostly we dey use them inside function parameters to collect arguments and then pack all the arguments we collect together inside one box, inside one array. For instance, if you no sabi how many arguments person go pass inside your function, you fit use rest collect all the extra arguments, all the extra parameters, and join them together. For instance, may we take a look at this function example. We get this function chop food. This chop food function they collect two arguments where we know for sure, this first and second argument. Then any extra argument where our users or our programmers or anybody where they run this code, any other argument where they provide, you go pack them together into this the rest array. So now if we console log first, now any argument we pass as the first argument, it will console log for here. Console log second go console log the second, and console log the rest will console log a collection of all the remaining arguments we then pass, no matter if not 2, 3, 4, or 5. Like this chop food example. Now, make we enter Destructuring. Destructuring for JavaScript line, we take the collect some of the data inside an object or array and then store them inside another variable in a simple and fast way without writing long code or multiple lines of code. For instance, let's say we get this object person and we get the name, age, and city of our person. Now, we won't collect the name and then save this name only inside its own variable. And then we also won't collect the age and then save the age only inside its own variable. We fit write the code like this. Let name equal to person.name and let age equal to person.age. And then if we won't collect the city, we will also write that city equal to person.city. But all of these ones are long twin. We don't need more than one line of code to do this if we sabi the structure. To destructure, you go first write const or let or any variable keyword will they take declare your variable. Then you go open curly braces and then write the properties, the key of the value will they try save as its own variable. So now you go call equator to the person. Wetin this one go do now, say it go automatically make this key beside this object become a variable name, and then it go automatically make the value become the value of this new variable. So now if we console log this name, you don't create a name variable and the value would be our Tunde. And then if we console log the city too, you go save the Lagos inside this new city variable. So the value of our city will be Lagos. If you use the structure any property and value inside an object, you fit don't notice say with this our syntax, with this way we will take the structure our object, we no fit use a different name as the name we want take save our values. For instance, this Tunde, if we want save this Tunde inside a new variable, any name we go take save the new variable go gas the key, which is this name, if we dey destructure like this. But what if we want save am as a different name from our property? What if we no want save our Tunde as a name variable? What if we want use a different name for the variable? How we go take do am? Well, you fit still do this one too with Destructuring. Only you go rename the variable inside this curly bracket. So you go write them like this: name colon, then change them to the new name where you want take store your values. And then if you want change the variable where we take store how old our person be, we fit do them as well using this colon, then years. So now we dey specify the property of the value where we want extract. We dey also specify the name we want take save the new variable. If we console.log name, you no go work because there is no such variable as name, because we don't change that now to full name. And if we console log age now, you no go work because we don't change that to yes. But if we console log full name and we console log yes, it will give us the name and the age of our person. Just as we dey destructure objects, we fit also destructure arrays. And the way we dey do am na the same. Basically, only difference na say after our variable declaration keyword comes, we go open a square bracket inside instead of a curly braces. Remember, curly braces na we dey use for objects, but square brackets na we dey use for arrays. So to destructure this fruits array for our example, we simply write the keyword const, then open square brackets, and inside the square brackets we get 3 variables. Now the first item for our array go save itself only inside this first variable inside our square bracket. So this first variable will become mango. It go get the value of mango. And then the second one will get the value of banana. And this apple go save inside this variable. Third, you no need to destructure everything. If you only need 1 or 2 things inside an array, you fit just write that like this. And if you need only the first and the third, you fit just write that like this. You go write the name of the first variable, but after the first comma, you no go write anything. And then write another comma, and then you go write the variable name where you want take save the third item. We fit combine the Destructuring with REST for both objects and arrays. For arrays, we fit do am through this example. For here now, we dey set our first item into this first variable. So this variable first go become rice. And then we go now pack the rest of the items in this array inside this variable others using REST operator. So the others, this others variable could become an array containing beans, yam, and plantain. And this variable first will contain rice. Now another example with this, we will say we get our fruits arrays containing 4 items. Then we destructure the first item into this variable first. So first go turn to mango. Then we collect the rest of the fruits inside our array into this rest fruit variable. So this rest fruit variable could become banana, apple, and orange will be the remaining, the rest. Just like we dey combine the Destructuring with REST for arrays, we fit also combine the Destructuring with REST for objects. To use the Destructuring and REST together for objects, we fit do am like this example where we get this person object. Now, what we want to do now? Say we want to structure the data inside this object into two more objects. We want to collect the name of our person and store am inside a name variable, and then we want to collect the rest and store am inside another variable. These constants we recall our info. So we write const and then open curly braces to show say now object with the structure. Then we write what we want the structure into our first variable where we name. Then we can use this rest operator dot to say connect the rest of the information inside this object into this other constant we will call other info, and then we will say equal to the object we will try the structure. Again, simply we they say pick the name, then the rest use other info to pack am inside one box. So the name becomes Tunde and the other info become all of these other key value pairs. We should use Destructuring inside function arguments or parameters. For instance, if you write our function greet and then we expect me our users pass in an object as the argument, we fit quickly extract the values we need by destructuring the properties inside this function argument directly. So with this example, we get destructuring for the name and the city from our object. So this function go work if we pass in a parameter will be object, and then with this object it will just automatically convert the name and the city. So for example, if we call this function with this new person object, it will automatically destructure, that is remove the data where it need, which is the name and city properties, and then use them inside our function logic. Yeah, we just the console log these values, but we fit do anything we will want. Now we will done the structure key objects. At this point for our course, we go move on to array methods. Yes, we don't talk about array methods before. Array methods where we take the do things, modify, change, lengthen, or reduce our array. But we not talk about some popular array methods where they're very important because you go use them for React and other JavaScript libraries and frameworks. These methods, we go they look at them one by one. The first one we will go examine today now, dot map. Dot map, they move through every item inside array, and then it change, it transform each one of the items inside the array. But after he don't transform all of them finish, he go still return them as a new array. Well, if he comes safe inside another box, inside another variable, you know, go touch the original array. The original array go still there, but then the new transformation, he go give us the value so that we could store them inside another variable and then use that one too. For example, we get this our numbers array. This array contain 4 items, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We go on use this dot math method to transform our number to multiply each of them by 2. Multiplication is one of the transformation where if you do any transformation, you fit divide, you fit multiply. If my strings, you fit use string method to add something to all of them. As long as you want modify each of them somehow, and then return the value and save them inside a different array, you fit use this dot map. So to use that, you will use arrow function. We don't talk about arrow functions before. You will just write this no. This num argument, the first parameter. I tell you, if arrow function gets only one parameter, you no need to put an inside bracket. Now, why we write this no directly? And this num parameter, if it be anything, if you use any name to stop her, but as long as it dey inside this map bracket, that means that they go represent each individual item inside your array. So now, after you don't supply the parameter and then you do the arrow function, you will come do the kind transformation where you want perform. This one, we just want multiply each of our item by times 2. So now, this one turn loop 4 times. So for the first time, none would be 1. It will do 1 times 2. It will save her inside one new array. Then it will do 2 times 2, save her. 3 times 2, save her. Then 4 times 2, save her. Then this value, this new array, our transformation, you go come return them back to us so that if you can save them inside a variable and use this one too anywhere for our program. Another array method wey we get na dot filter. Dot filter go check each item for your array to see if they meet certain conditions. Then the ones wey meet the condition, e go put that inside a new array, but the ones wey no meet that condition, e go throw away out. So now the difference between map and filter na say map will help you transform every single one of your arrays, and it will give the transformation back to you without eliminating anyone. But filter go check if they meet certain condition, and not only the ones wey meet that condition, it go give back to you. For this our example now, we get nums array containing numbers from 1 to 6. Then we use the dot filter method, pass the num as the first argument as usual to signify each of our items. Then after the arrow function sign, we go come write our condition. Now for this one, we dey try check if any of our item the even number. Now only the ones will be even number. Now if we want make it return inside a new array. Any number will the even number, I tell you, divided by 2. The modulus, this percentage, go be 0. But anyone wey no dey divisible by 2, which is an odd number, the modulus could be 1. So now we dey check for each item in our array, divide them by 2, see if their modulus equal to 0. If their modulus equal to 0, create new array and then give them back to us. So we try with 1 more dey divisible by 2, you no go use that one. Then 2 dey divisible, so it will give us 2 in our new array. 3, you go come out, and 4, you go put them for our new array. 5, you go come out, and 6, you go put them for our new array. So our new array becomes 2, 4, 6 after filtering. We also get the reduce method. Reduce method could take one array, combine all the items into one single value, and then give us the result. So for this our example now, we get 4 items inside our array. We'll use the reduce method, but the reduce method could get the first argument will be the call accumulator, and the second argument will be just be our individual items as normal. This accumulator, they indicate the starting point, how we want to make our transformation into one item start. So you go write your accumulator and your items parameter inside one bracket, then write your arrow function, and then after you go come write wetin you want do. For here we dey say add our accumulator plus each of our items in the array. This value will be right after this comma. Na wetin go be the initial value of the accumulator. Since we work at all the items for this our array, we set our accumulator initial value as 0. So it will constant 0 plus 1, 1, then 1 plus 2, 3, then 3 plus 3, 6, then 6 plus 4, 10. You fit also use and do multiplication or any other kind of operation we want to reduce everything into just one item. Now we go talk about joining strings and variables together. We don't see how we dey join strings and variables together for JavaScript with some of our past examples. But now I will tell you the 2 major ways. For instance, if we get these 2 variables, name and age, and we won't use them both in one string to say my name is this name and then I am this age years old. The first way will we take the insert variables inside our strings for JavaScript, man, to write them like this. You see, say for year, we get our normal string, my name is. But now at this point, we won't use the name. We just write plus the name variable, and then plus again another string, and I am, and plus again the age variable and the string years old. This one go work, and the final value of your message variable will be one long string. Maybe my name is Alice and I am 25 years old. But it is very annoying to dey write all these quotation marks and then this plus, and then to make sure you add this space after your quotation mark. All these ones, they very annoying. And to do it in an easier way, we get modern way we can withdraw for JavaScript. We dey use wetin we dey call template literals. Template literals, man, the backticks. We will say, I tell you earlier for the course in the beginning, say we fit use them, right? String, and it will make our life easier because we fit use double quotes and single quotes inside them. With template literals, ticks. You fit also write your variable directly inside without using this plus and then breaking down your quote. You go write them like this: backtick, my name is, and then whenever you want use any variable, you could just use this $sign, then curly braces. So inside you go call out your variable name. And I am another $sign, curly braces, then inside you write your variable name, ES code. So the output of this one too could become: my name is Alice and I am 25 years old. So now even if we change our main variable to Blessing and our age to be 18, this code could still work and it will reflect the new values of our variable, which is my name is Blessing and I am 18 years old. We don't approach the end of our full JavaScript programming course for Pidgin. We don't cover a lot already, but it remains two key things where I want maybe understand before we round up. These two things now: classes and APIs. Everything we don't learn already don't even make you a strong JavaScript programmer, but you no fit call yourself a programmer until you understand classes and API, especially in JavaScript, because now the foundation, now the backbone of a lot of things we would do with these programming languages. So within the classes for JavaScript, a class man like a blueprint where you think they create many objects. We get the same structure. We don't already talk about classes here and there, but you know really low. For instance, this person object, now example of an instance of a class. Yes, classes just be like the ancestors of objects. Now them go shape how objects go look so that all of our objects feel they consistent if they belong to the same class, if they get the same property. So for instance, this example of a person object, you get the following key value pairs to save data about this specific person. And then we get another dog objects. We get these following key value pairs. We get so many instances of this kind of key value pairs. What do I mean by that? This person object now, if it be our person 1 object, and then we get another person 2 object with the same key value pairs, and then we get another person 3 object with the same key value pairs. From merely looking at all of these objects, we go now say they get things in common, right? Because they reflect the same kind of information about things will fall inside the same class. So all of these objects, we feel group them inside their own class. Even these dog, you consider these 3 dog objects we get, all of them get the same key value pairs because they reflect the same information but about different instances of one class. We fit create the class we they all belong to so that it go dey easier for us to create more instances of these objects. So you fit think of class as machine where they specify how your objects go look, a blueprint where they allow you create as many instances of a class through as many objects as possible. For instance, now for our person objects, we fit put all of these person 1, person 2, and person 3 inside the same class. So now like this, we will create a class for JavaScript. We go first write the keyword class, followed by the name where you want call your class, and then you open curly bracket and you write the constructor keyword. This constructor now, they say if we want create our objects we belong to this class, we fit create as many as possible thanks to this simple construction function. Now we did the layout, the blueprint of all the other objects we would belong to this class. Then as the argument of your constructor function, you go write the properties where you want make all your objects will fall into this class, the properties where you want make them have. And then for our example now, the key value pairs, the keys, the properties of all the objects we belong to this class. Now, name, age, and city. So we go provide these properties as arguments, and then inside our curly brackets for the construction function, we go write this.name equal to name, this.age equal to age, and this.city equal to city. Now, wetin we dey talk now na say whenever we want initiate any object in this class, and I will show you an example of how we go initiate the object very soon. But we dey talk say whenever we want initiate any object, we gats pass in 3 argument parameters, and this argument will be passed into the function go serve as the name, age, and the city. The first argument go serve as the name. Now, wetin this dot name equal to name mean? The second one go serve as the age, and the third one go serve as the city. You see, say after each key value pair, we dey end am with semicolon. This one dey important inside class. Na color we dey use inside the object itself, but inside the constructor function for the class, you will use semicolon. So now, to create a new object which belong to this person class, we no need to start to dey write the key value pairs manually like this. No, we go just use this construction function wey we don already get. We go do am like this. We go initialize our variable to be equal to, and then we write the keyword new person. That is, we dey create a new instance of this class, a new object that belong to this class, and then the name of the class, and then you will come pass in the arguments which will serve as the key properties in your class, which is the name, the age, and the city. So we go pass in today, 25, and Lagos. So automatically we don't create a new object called person 1 be this. And now if we console log this person 1, we go see say the data inside could be like this. All of these key value pairs, we don't create them easily with just this single line of code, thanks to our class and the constructor function what we don't already write for here. We fit can also easily decorate more people now with just one line, thanks to the constructor function. So if you want get person 2, instead of writing all of the key value pairs from scratch, you could just do it by passing in the right argument. So now our person 2 go automatically get this data, this object inside, and then we fit write person 3, person 4, and so on very easily. And one more thing where I want make you notice now, say, is this our person class? We get function inside. As I take the objects, fit also get functions inside them. So within this one, the talk now say for our function greet. Whenever we create a new object with this constructor function, it go also automatically inherit this function of greet. So we should call this function on this object by saying person1 dot greet. And what this one go do now, say e go also log the name of the person. E go use an greet. My name is, then to use whatever value they inside the name property, and then it go say I am, then it go use this age variable. Here's good. And I live in, then it go use the city property. Any object where we create for this class, mine go get this greet function. We dey call any function will belong to a class with a caller method. So all of our instances of these objects will belong to this class. All of them go inherit this function. So we fit to person 2 dot greet, person 3 dot greet, person 4 dot greet, and each of them will correctly greet using their own name, their own age, and their own city. Now, I want make you try and do an exercise by yourself. I want make you create a new class and a constructor function for our dog objects to create a class dog, so that we go fit create more objects that belong to this class dog, more dogs, easily without having to write their key value pairs from scratch. Like this, we dey do am. Our constructor function get 3 properties. We also get 2 functions in this class. You see, say the first function we just console log the name of whatever object we create in this class as a string, and then the dog name to say woof woof. And the second one, they give us the info about our dog. You go use the name of the dog, is age, you go use the 8 years old, and then the breed. So now we fit use this constructor function, this class we don't create now for our dog class, to create several new objects, several new dogs with their own unique information. So we go use const dog1 or whatever variable you want to create new dog, and then we go pass in our arguments to reflect the specific instance, the specific dog will be the create. And this dog now will automatically be able to use these two functions. If we call my dog dot back, it go say body says back. And if we call my dog dot info, it will say body is a 3-year-old golden retriever. You don't already understand classes in JavaScript, how we take the use and create more objects, how we take the use and create objects easily, how we take the use and create objects to get the same information so that our code could be cleaner and less prone to error. But we still get so many things where we get for classes in JavaScript. There is too much to learn. Things like static and private methods, static data, how to share these classes and objects in your code, or how to keep them private. But all of these ones, they're beyond the scope of our course. You fit research them on your own, but now quite advanced thing. So no rush, no need to rush for now. You don't know enough to move on. Now we go move on to APIs. Wetin be APIs for JavaScript? API na application programming interface. Na the way wey your code dey talk to another system or service. When JavaScript programmers dey talk about API, most of the time dem dey simply refer to how they connect to other applications, maybe other database or other websites or other platforms to fetch important data wey dem fit use anywhere in your project. With APIs, you fit even connect to your own back end and then get the data wey you store for your database. And then you fit also expose your data to other people so that themselves go fit fetch your data through your API, or themselves fit expose their API to you so that you go fit fetch some data or do some things with their data on your own website. Yes, some people they charge for their API, and some people they make am available free of charge. For instance, weather apps, they get data concerning the temperature immediately and other weather conditions. If you dey build something, we need data from weather services. You fit easily connect to their API and get their data. Now, one of the many importance of APIs to this. The most common API we get for JavaScript, we get for programming in general, we dey call am RESTful API. This RESTful API, they allow us to do 4 main things. We fit use them to collect data, we fit use them to save data, and we fit use them to delete data. Saving data get 2 ways. You fit save data wey you never get, and you fit update data. Now, there are several methods wey you fit use to connect to API for JavaScript, but the most popular na the fetch method wey we dey call the fetch API. You go use this fetch to connect to an API with fetch. Now, like this with the writer, you go write your fetch, then you go write the endpoint of that API, which is like the address of that API where you dey connect to. And then you go write these 2 dots then. These 2 dots then will first take in the data wey they send to you. Now, the data wey they send to you na with this response. You will take this data and it will convert them to JSON. And then this JSON line with this data now for the next dot then. You go come fit do anything you want with them inside these curly braces. Then we dey get this new line dot catch. This dot catch, we dey take am catch error. So you go first run wetin dey this up, this fetch dot then and dot then. But if you get error instead of the data, and for this dot catch area, then you go catch the error. And if you do anything you want with this error message wey dey send back to you too, you fit take am know specific things wey dey wrong with your request. This kind of API call na wetin we dey call get request. We dey use am collect data from an API, but like I tell you, APIs no be to collect data only. You fit also use them store, update, and delete data. For now, knowing how to fetch data dey enough, and this knowledge dey enough for you to use at the beginner level. For the intermediate level, you go come start to dey understand wetin we dey call asynchronous programming, which is why we get this dot then and dot then after we fetch our data from the API. Then you go need to understand error handling, like this catch block wey we get and try and catch in general. This one too dey beyond the scope of our courses, but I go dey make a different video for my channel where I will explain APIs and fetch method in more detail. I will even tell you the alternative wey we get, the alternative to this fetch method. Finally, for our course, the last thing wey I want make we take a look at na how we dey structure our file for JavaScript. You see, whenever you dey write code for any programming language, you go dey write a lot of functions. You go dey work with a lot of data. You no fit just write everything on one page inside one file. No, because imagine for one project now, you get so many user data, so many functions wey dey do so many different things, so many classes, so many objects, so many arrays, and you put them all for one page. E go dey very hard for you to keep up, for you to even understand wetin dey go on. And if you leave your code for a few months, by the time when you come back yourself, you no go even understand wetin dey happen. Now, why we need to be able to write our code in different files but still be able to use them all in one place. Now, where would they use import and export statements for JavaScript be that, so that we go fit write our code in one file and still be able to use them somewhere else. For instance, now in this our example, I get my user data. These my users will they use our application, and I get their data on this page. This data now I'm array containing objects wey contain the information of the users. I also get functions where I dey use do different things. Like these first category of functions now, I dey use them, they find things. You no need to worry about wetin the functions they do exactly, their logic. So I was gonna say these functions, I dey use them, they find things just to find and retrieve without changing the data in any way. Then I also get this category of functions. These ones, I dey use them to change things, to modify things on the page. With all of them on the same page like this, my program go dey very stuffy. You know, if it's really read them. If another program are coming, they know if it's read them. If we want change some features in the future, it go dey very hard for us to navigate and find the right things. Now, why we go guys break them down into different files be that. Now, I fit separate my code into different files and use them in the same place through import and export. To export any code for JavaScript, so that if you use them for another place, you go use the export keyword. So we go create a new file. We go call them retrieval.js. And inside this file, we will get our functions. We will take the retrieve things. Before the function keyword for each of our function, we go write the export keyword like this. So within this one they do now, say they make sure say all of these functions we get export keyword before then. All of them we fit use up on another page in another file. However, if we not add this export keyword, we no fit use am. If you don't want the right export every time before your function, you fit write the function normally and then export everything as an object at the end, at the bottom of the page. So we go write up like this. We go come create another file. Now, this file will be for all of our functions we will use to change things. We go call this file modify.js, and then we go also export everything like this. And then for all our data, our user data, the array we contain the objects of our user data, we go also create a page for them. And yes, you will also need to export this data as well. If you get variables, objects, or arrays, anything where you get for your JavaScript pages with the color JavaScript modules, you must export them using export keyword so that you go fit use them for another page. So this array of objects containing our user data, we go export them out. We go put export in front of our variable like this. We fit also write the export down like we do if we get plenty objects or arrays where we want to export. So after we export all of our function and data, we fit now start to the work on R for different file. This file we will call them index.js. Index.js now the standard when all JavaScript programmers they use to name their launch file, the main file where they contain the functions where they go user with the right index.js so that everybody understand the standard. So now if you get job for one company now and they enter their code base for the first time, you know, we need to start the ask which one be the main file. You go know is na index.js na indica file wey be say go run the program, go run all the main functions where you get. So now to use all of our functions and all of our data, we go lead to first import. I tell you, to use them outside, you go need to export them. But now, if you don't go reach that place where you will use them, you go need to import them. You know fit import something where you never export. So to import, you go write down like this: import, open curly braces and close curly braces. Then inside, you go write the name of the functions or object or anything where you don't export, where you want import for here. Then you go need to say where you did import them from. So you go write from, and then you go specify the path of the file where you want import something from. You go do like this. One of the reasons why he has code and other good code editors, they're very important, and because they give you suggestions of all the path of all your files and modules where you want use, so that logo need to the writer from scratch. And if you want to write them from scratch, if you write them too, and if you make mistakes, these editors go tell you, say you don't make mistake, and they go correct you. Now we go import all of our functions where we get in the file for retrieving, which is the retriever.js file, and then all of our functions where we get for the modify, which is the modify.js file, and finally all of our data where we call data.js. So now all of these functions and all of this data, we go fit easily use them inside this file, and it go there smooth and clean. You know, go there jam packed like it did before. Typically, when it comes to importing, wetin we do now na the common way to do am and the simple way. But if you want to rename specific functions or any data where you import, if you want to rename them, if you just write them with this as keyword, so you go say import this as this. So now anywhere for your code, instead of writing this, you go write this, because this one logo what again, you don't remain this function essentially. And what you they talk with that, because you don't import them not as itself as we do before, but you don't import them as this where you don't change them to. So now this you must always write anywhere where you want to use this function. Finally, I want to tell you about export default for your JavaScript modules. This export default, they very popular for React and other framework. It was them everywhere. They know they just export normally, then they export default. So how is this one different from the normal export? The different say export default, they allow you to be able to use any main immediately you they import that thing. For instance, let's say I they export this function in this file. I will call an example.js. Let's say I they import this function into our file. Now I tell you so to import, I gotta use the name inside these curly braces. However, if I export them as default, then I fit simply import them using any name whatsoever, because since we don't already specify, say these na the default function when we want export, the program will automatically know which to import for this file. If we name anything, if we know write the name, so it will just automatically go to the default one, because we don't set and say at this one, these people they import if they import this file. So we fit write any name we want to import that, as long as we specify the right location. Then you must also know, say, you fit get plenty functions for the files. That for this example.js file, even if we get plenty functions inside, we fit export the other function normally, but export this one as default, and it will still work. But to import all these other ones where we export normally, we must write their names correctly. To import this one where we make the default, we feel import them as any name. And now this don't bring us to the end of our JavaScript course. You self don't try. You try. You don't to try. You deserve round of applause. You don't learn a lot. You don't learn everything when you need to know to call yourself a proper JavaScript developer in training. Because now you know the raw materials of JavaScript, but to call yourself a proper full JavaScript developer, you need to know how to do things, how to build projects, whether create websites, create web apps, create backend, APIs, anything with JavaScript. And for this one now, you need to learn JavaScript DOM manipulation. And you also need to learn a framework or library like React. But the good news now, say I still get all of these courses for my pace. So you fit still learn very easily with Pidgin and understand these things better than you go understand if they learn now any other way. For now, the JavaScript DOM courses and the React courses now for paid users, but the money small. With shinkily money, you go get access to our paid courses, including the JavaScript DOM and React project, but other projects too, where I dey build trees and I dey show you how to build big thing so that you self go level up your programming skill. For now, congratulations, you don't complete JavaScript. See you in the next course. Thank you for your attention to this matter.